League of Legends is a game of champions. We all play League because of champions. Now, learning a champion can be a fun experience. It can also be a very painful experience. So today we're going to be exploring how to properly learn champions and why it fundamentally makes you a better player, right? You can't avoid learning new champions. And we're going to kick off this episode with just the very, controversial topic that not every champion is equally learnable. Now, Charlie, we've actually spoke about this extensively in our school Solo Queue Masterclass, where we actually had this beautiful little graph we whipped up. And I think this is shout out to you, Charles, for this one. We're going to be starting here because I think this kind of sets the groundwork for why some champions can be a little bit tricky to learn and why other champions can be actually very easy to learn. So, Charles, how do we make sense of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess to start off with, we'll put the graphic on the screen right now. Bam. We want to view champion complexity on two spectrums, right? We want to talk about reference point complexity. So when it comes down to how hard it is to actually make decisions on the champion, close out games, direct your attention. And then we want to talk about like mechanical or execution complexity as well. And as you can see on the screen right now, go ahead, grab the laptop for a second so I can actually bloody see it. Thank you very much. We've got some different champions on this list here. You see some champions are easy to execute and have simple reference points. Some champions are easy to execute but have complex reference points. And then kind of in the top right, we've got champions that are both complex in their reference points and have a large execution burden. The classics, the Ezreals, the Azirs, and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think at a very baseline level, a lot of people kind of automatically assume that difficulty of a champion to learn is mainly execution based, right? When people think of like, okay, what's a hard champion to learn? They're looking at, again, something like an Aurelia, an Azir, or an Ezreal, very like mechanically skill shot oriented champions that have a lot of maybe combos, things like
Lots
that.
of buttons to press.
A lot of buttons to press. Yeah, exactly right. But people don't really think, it's not overly intuitive to think about complexity in terms of like reference points or like difficulty in terms of complex reference points. So let's flesh out this idea a little bit, Charles. So what is a complex reference point champion? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so I'll use the AD carry example in the graph here. We've got Samira. Samira is a champion, in my opinion, has relatively ease of execution. Like does a lot of damage. The way you kind of output that damage is relatively simple. We can have a lot of point and click in a kit. You kind of just want to get to your ulti, and it's obviously you don't have to aim the ult. It just kind of does it, right? But the way that you win games on Samira and the way you conduct yourself in the game, it changes. It's complex. We don't have a cookie cutter solution to winning games. You have to have high levels of threat assessment. You have to play differently based on the champions in the game around you.
Adaptability.
Yes, you have to adapt. Some matchups, you have to know how to crush them. You need to know when to start E, play really aggressive. Some matchups, you literally can't even touch the wave. And the way you play in the mid game is largely going to depend on the team, the champions on your team and the kind of engage you have, but also the amount of CC the enemies have. It can cause you to play the game in a completely different way. And also, I will say that it's quite unintuitive. It's a complex reference point champion in comparison to the other AD carries in the roster. When you think about most AD carries, they want to play the game in a very similar way. We want to be getting strong and carrying fights, playing front to back for the majority of time. We're spiking on 3 items, this kind of thing. Samira, you're a bloody melee champion at the end of the day. And for an average AD carry, moving to that, it is quite complex, the way you conduct yourself in the game.
As the jungler, I have Rek'Sai on here for this section about easy to execute. Very easy to get your damage off as Rek'Sai, but the complex reference points. This category to me feels like it's champions that hard to close out games. They can only kill one person at a time. They're very cooldown reliant but they're very good at doing that job and killing them, because what I see when I coach Rek'Sai players is that they get ahead and then they keep trying to kill people. And once you're in with Rek'Sai, you're pretty much going to be dead. If someone flashes or you focus the wrong target, it's disastrous. And that gets confusing very, very quickly. It's like, okay, is it just a matter of like whether this guy's flash or not, or just outplays me? Is that how I win a game? Like, it's just purely luck by base of that point. I can get as fed as I want early game, all that, but I'm not going to be able to close out the game because I'm yeah, I don't know what to do.
Because there's a lot of things that you can do on Rek'Sai, right? I mean, sometimes you're peeling in fights as Rek'Sai. Sometimes you're going in, you're chunking someone, they're backing up. Sometimes you're actually literally trading 1-for-1 with a key carry or whatever.
Small wins concepts. You know, sometimes you literally have the choice to kill someone, but it's better to hold your R, get that chunk and take some camps or go push a wave.
So to compare, let's contrast for a second, right? What would be a champion in your mind? So we're on the graph here, a champion with simple reference points. You've got a Mumu, right, in here, or even Karthus. These are champions with simpler reference points. So how does that compare? Maybe give the listeners maybe a bit of a comparison. Why is a champion like let's say Karthus comparative to Rek'Sai?
Hopefully
reference point wise.
Anyone here has tried to play Karthus and
I have, as I have with most champs in the game.
Missed a lot of cues. You know, you're very short cooldowns. It's like the Nidalee and all that. Like Karthus has like the execution in a little bit of the Nidalee, but has way simpler reference points. You know, the game plan's very clear for a Karthus. Full clear, play around ult. But if you just do that, you are going to be limited at some point, right? You do need to eventually hit Qs and actually fight. But a champion like a Mumu and team fighting in general and throwing your body at people is actually...
Ulti-based champs.
And team fights. Like specifically, I would say ult-based champs around team fights. Like if I think about like a Nocturne ult, a Nocturne ult has a lot more depth to it than, even though Nocturne is an ult-reliant champion, than a Mumu ult,
That's a good point, yeah.
Right.
So, so a Mumu would be a champion that is easy to execute as well as very simple reference points, because team fighting, especially Mumu, gets recommended as a lower elo champion because there's a lot of team fights, there's a lot of ARAMing, and also he scales quite well. And
so it's clear that you know exactly what you need to do on a Mumu. It's not overly complicated, right? You want to be there with your ulti for major team fights, kind of play for those team fights around neutrals and things like that, and that's that. Whereas it's not that cookie cutter with a Rek'Sai. You're not just going to be able to rock up to a team fight. Here we go. Let's play the
team fight the same way a lot of the time.
It's going to be a lot more nuanced than that.
A Mumu's way you think about review fights is, okay, I provide the CC, my teammates provide the damage. If I go in and I Q or I R and I don't have people to come and follow up, then I lose the fight. If I do, we win the fight.
It's relatively black and white.
But Rek'Sai could be, I go and kill this person, but it's the wrong person, so we lose the game.
And it's not to say there's no skill, there's not skill expression with the Mumu. It's just, it's relative. It's relative clarity in terms of what you need to do. So I guess to summarize this area, you know, I think it's important for people to understand that I think complex reference points is arguably a lot more significant than execution. Yeah. I would say net. Again, it's hard to talk in generalities in League, but like I would say people get more success even with like mechanically based champions with simple reference points rather than the other way around. You know what I mean? Like I think that complex reference points is so pervasive. It's like a hidden killer, I think, in League of Legends, because when you don't know what you're trying to achieve with your champion, the game becomes incredibly confusing very, very, very quickly. And this is a theme that we're going to touch on a lot throughout this episode. So we'll park that for now, I think. I think we'll move on and we'll come back to this whole concept of complex reference points. So moving on, you know, under this whole conversation of why not every champion is equally learnable, we've got certain champions just require really good understanding of limits, right? Certain champions' kits, if you don't know their limits, they're kind of just they don't really do much, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, obviously assassins fall into this category a lot. Very committal-based champions, I would say, you know, Sylas is a really obvious example of this, right? If you don't know your limits as a Sylas, and you don't know that you can stay in combat, and get a second rotation of your W off, that's a massive difference, right? A Sylas that knows they can stay in combat, get that additional W off and pump out a whole nother combo is very different to a Sylas that says, you know what, I don't know my limits yet, I'm scared, I'm going to back off. They don't even get that whole second rotation of abilities. So I would say champions that require more time investment to understand your limits to really fulfill the champ's identity are just tricky to learn.
Yeah, Ezreal is hitting every category we're talking about here. Ezreal has the difficult execution, the complex reference points in the sense that he's a blank canvas. You can do anything on Ezreal, and you have to understand your knowledge limits quite crazy because all your abilities reset your E. Right, if you hit a Q on Ezreal, it resets reduces the cooldown of your E. So the limits are infinite on Ezreal. You will see like Ezreal scale like indefinitely. There's no one in the world that's perfected Ezreal, and you have to have a certain level of threat assessment on the champion and knowledge of your own limits to even kill the fucking Nexus. Like, it's so hard to kill a
There's
Nexus.
just so much you can do. Like I'm thinking like Ezreal passive likes extended fights, but also can poke. But also, it's mind-boggling to be like, okay, what do I do in each situation? And a lot of there's a big subsection of people that join our academies who are like they want clear the if statements. It's like, oh, if this happens, do this. If this happens, but there's too many variables in League. It's actually impossible. That's where you have to rely on intuition. A big one that I see when I coach Kindred players is that there is one game where they're against very low threat type champions and they should be queuing forward.
Yeah.
But then they play the next game and then they're just getting killed in their 0-10 because they're queuing where they should be holding the queue and dodging abilities. And then it might just not be as simple as like that game we versed all the comp. It's like there's a mixture of those champs in the comp. So it's like this and then this fight's different and this fight's different.
But some champions don't require an overly sophisticated understanding of your limits to fulfill your champ's identity, right? Like, again, let's reference a Mumu. You don't need to have a sophisticated understanding of like how much damage you can deal and take in a lot of scenarios. As long as you're getting your combo off and you're landing your R,
that's going to do a lot.
You're already going to be providing a lot of impact in a lot of your scenarios. I do want to talk about, I think top laners really fall into this category a lot. I found when we all played top lane for the Top Lane Academy back in the day, I found a lot of top laners to have incredibly brutal learning experiences because you're a melee champion that needs to go in there and figure it out whether or not you can learn the trade.
Yeah.
And so like, I think I'm just thinking back to champions, even like Gwen, where it's like, can I go in and can I all in this person? If I go in with and I land my R's and I land my empowered Q or whatever, am I going to be able to kill this? Because if I go in and I don't kill this guy, I'm in a lot of trouble.
You're in.
I'm in. I'm stuck. And I think there's a lot of top laners like this. Even I'm thinking like Camille's, I'm thinking of Fiora's, a lot of these champions that like they want to go in and commit. And like, I think that's why a lot of people who haven't played many melees before and haven't lived in top lane enough, they struggle integrating into that kind of ecosystem of like playing a lot of these very committal melee oriented champions.
And that's combined as well, top lane with like the wave, like, and it's a long lane. Like mid lane, you can maybe screw up your item and you'll be fine. But there's both factors. Like there's a lot of top laners that go 0-10, because that's exactly how you described.
Yeah. So in my attempt to simplify a lot of these top lane champions, I really try and think about it a lot in terms of items and levels for these champs, right? You can get to the point where you have such a sophisticated understanding of your limits that you kind of intuitively know what all the champs up there do, the intricacies of the trades. But on that path to get there, it's really important to just think about like, when is my champion strong based on items and levels, and when is their champion strong based on items and levels? And then it's just like almost like an equation, and sticking to that somewhat rigidly. That's how we kind of when I made the Camille guide for Top Lane Academy, we taught that. Same with Urgot, same with Mordekaiser, like a lot of level stuff.
Yeah, Gwen as well, same thing. Yeah. So another one is like archetypal role champs. So there are certain champs in the game that they just make sense. They have a clear identity when you think of the role. Like a lot of people have this fantasy of playing, I want to play a big fat bruiser fighter that gets in there and deals a bunch of damage. Garen, right? It makes sense. The kit makes sense. It's very clear with the moment you play 3 games of Garen, what it's about, how it functions, what it's trying to do. And the skills that you will develop on that champion also flow on quite nicely to a lot of other champions in the role.
Yeah.
Same thing for mages in mid lane, right? Sometimes like learning something like a Viagar. It's very intuitive. It's like, I'm this spellcaster, I'm squishy, I have a bit of CC, bit of AoE, bit of burst. Like, if you've played any quote-unquote mage in any RPG or any little game that you've played, you kind of get it. You get the gist. And the skills that you would develop on these champions are going to follow through. So these are champions that, again, are on the other side of the spectrum. They maybe don't require the most kind of sophisticated understanding of your limits to kind of feel like you're able to fulfill your champ's identity.
It's interesting you talk about archetypes. I just had some champions that like they're that archetype, but they're really confusing. And I remember when you first explained like Zed's like a poke, it's like a mage, like a poke champion.
Zed's not archetypal whatsoever.
Yeah, which is that's just mind blowing to people. It's like I'm there to kill, but I'm there to poke.
Oh no, okay. Let me rephrase that. I don't actually like the way I said that. Zed does have a clear identity as a burst oriented assassin, but the way you get to that point is maybe not overly intuitive.
He's what I would describe as a transformer.
Yes.
So you play your lane one way, and then you play your fights and mid game in a completely different way.
Yep. Which would be very different to like a Fizz who kind of plays lane like an assassin, true assassin, and then plays mid game like a true assassin. So yeah, I get what you mean. I think there are some champs that have it like it's clear throughout the entirety of the game. Other champs like maybe their identity is a lot clearer just in the mid game or whatever.
Yeah, and then another one that I'm thinking for a lot of people have this hard time, like they pick it for the wrong reasons, like Udyr. They think that Udyr is a champion that you run into them and then, because I've got the E and the double, and they just get kited and they just get killed. But the way that we teach it, famously, I've talked on this podcast a million times, the electric fence mindset, you need
That
to
should
get...
be on a bingo card.
Bingo card it up.
The electric fence mindset.
Don't chase.
Let them
come into you.
Let them come into you.
That's what it should say. Let them come into
Yes.
you. Yes.
Well, that fits a lot of different... I will say
That's
that.
a lot of different champs in the game.
Yeah.
That's a very useful mindset.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So that's they think he's like a big, bulky, bruisery that thing, but he's actually especially quite squishy for a lot of the game.
Okay, so now we're moving on to like intuitive kits versus unintuitive kits. So again, under this whole topic of like not every champ being equally learnable, like some kits just feel good. They just make sense. You play it like, oh, okay, I get how the Q, W, E, R all beautifully kind of sync up together. Very, very intuitive. What are some examples of very intuitive kits?
I played Yunara day one of release. I just got it. Most intuitive AD carry ever. Archetypal has a dash on the E, has a steroid on the Q. W does something different. The ulti is something you need to play around. We're done. She's an auto attack based champion.
You know where the damage comes from. You know what ability you need to focus your attention on.
Yeah, it's super clear. Just like, and also just like is similar to other champions in that class.
Yep.
Like Yunara is similar to Kai'Sa. Yunara is similar to any hyper carry, really, even Jinx to some extent, because they just auto attack based champions. I think AD carries is pretty similar with this, but like, yeah, Yunara is really good at this. I think they did a great job with her champ design.
I think, what about for jungle? What are intuitive kits you think, Nathan? The people like, if you think about the jungle academy, people who just like pick up a champ and they pick it up pretty quick. And I'm putting you on the spot.
I can think
here.
of support while Nathan thinks. So for support, I think like Nami is a really, really good champion in terms of being intuitive. Very clear. You feel it. It's actually something where you get this almost like a dopamine hit. Like as Nami, if you can throw a W at an enemy and bounce it back onto yourself, you feel what that's like.
Yeah.
Because that's a really key reference point for her. Yeah, just buffing your teammates, feeling the power of them, like proccing your area and hitting the E's and stuff, landing a big R on multiple people. Yeah, it's a very intuitive champion.
Yeah, a lot of the new champ designs, I think Riot just gotten better at it, because I'm thinking about champ like Briar. Not that new, but Briar is very, very clean kits, like as you're sort of saying, you jump
clear
in.
fighter.
Yeah, because you literally are stuck on things, if you misplay your W. So it's very...
you kind of know what you got to do and how to do it and what you don't want to do. It's pretty straightforward.
That's right. But there is levels and depths. It's honestly, I think it's quite a hard question to talk from a jungle perspective, because jungle is just different, because jungle is more about you can sort of get away with a lot of things because you're permanently man advantage. You're the ganker, or you're playing the map more so.
What do you think about certain champions like...
Because I was trying to think of like a Volibear. I was trying to think...
I don't think Volibear's intuitive whatsoever.
No.
I don't find when I play my limited experience Volley, I don't find that champ intuitive.
He's actually one of those champions that's a bit of a trick. Like he looks easy, but it's...
Well, what about just more generic bruisers like, I don't know, Wukong? Isn't Wukong pretty intuitive?
Xin Zhao.
I mean, Xin Zhao's ulti is pretty confusing.
Jarvan.
No.
Jarvan? Wukong, surely. Just
No, I wouldn't say Wukong at all.
I don't think Wukong's very
I
intuitive
think Wukong's
either.
really hard.
Fiddlesticks? Is Fiddlesticks intuitive?
Yes. Yeah, actually Fiddlesticks is probably
Nocturne?
one of their ones.
Nocturne?
Nocturne's more again playing the map and the win condition and stuff like that.
This is why no one should learn jungle.
Yeah,
Until you-
it's
until you
really
get the
scary.
game.
I will say, a jungler nowadays, Nefiri. I think Nefiri is incredibly intuitive.
Vi?
Personally.
Is Vi intuitive?
Yes, Vi and Fiddlesticks, I would say, are intuitive. Nefiri I disagree
Really?
with, because Nefiri has this mindset of...
I'm not, because I don't, to be
Poking
clear,
in and out.
and this is where it gets a bit complicated, but I don't really view intuitive kits necessarily easy.
No, it's
Right?
just
We're not
like,
talking about is simple of learning. I just think that the kits just feel very...
I've seen people play Nefiri and they have no idea how to play fast at all. They don't understand the whole idea of poking and going in and out and like
but it's
the
like there's
E's
like a
and stuff like that.
tactile feeling to the champion where it's like you do this thing. Oh, I executed upon my champion's fantasy, and that felt correct.
That's the Vi and the Fiddlesticks.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
Fair enough.
And then there's unintuitive kits. So unintuitive kits are like where these kits have abilities that trick you. It's not overly obvious where you need to direct your attention, where the damage maybe is coming from, that sort of thing. Like just from a mid laner's perspective, I find Aurora is massively like this. Aurora, you have this like you think you're coming in and you're gonna play off your R and like play it. It's just more about like a lot of the time it's more about your Q and your E and your passive rather than like your R, which is just really odd. And the way you trade is just really unintuitive.
Yeah.
Just because again you're like this low range champion that needs to get in range to land Q, but then if you just walk up in QE, it's unreliable. So you got to like trade really creatively. A lot of people find Kiana incredibly unintuitive because it's a champion that you think, okay, I'm gonna be like an assassin and assassinate people, but you're kind of like more of like a team fighting. Like there's a huge element of your kit that revolves around team fighting, which is not what a lot of assassin players think. They think I'm this like mobile burst oriented assassin, yet I'm gonna like group around neutrals in terrain and play for team fights with my R. Like that's a huge part of Kiana's identity, you know? So what sort of mindset should I adopt with this champion? You see what I mean?
That's why I say I think Diana is really confusing because you want to get multi-man and Rs, but actually no. A lot of the time you just want really quick picks, one R. Because if you wait for the 3-4 man,
that's a whole bait. It's very rare you're ever getting like an AoE R.
Very rare. It's not
agree.
practical at all, which is really unintuitive. And actually, Wukong is another good example of that. People think you need to hold the clone for like defensive purposes, but the W clone is the most important part of your full combo.
Yeah, the double Q.
The double Q, and also you get your
staying in combat as well, like with your conk and stuff like that.
That's really unintuitive.
It is really unintuitive.
And that's why the full combo with Wukong is something that I always see people play Wukong. They're doing 20% of the damage.
It's really odd here because like what really comes to my mind for whatever reason is that there's a lot of complex kit, like high skill cap champions that have intuitive kits. Like I think a kit like Camille, for example.
Yeah.
It's a very clean, intuitive kit. Like you can play Camille, you get what she needs to do. It's hard, has a high skill cap, it's a hard champion, but the kit feels very intuitive. You're not confused about like what that champ really needs to do, you know?
That makes sense. I think Draven's pretty like intuitive. Like I put Draven on our graph as having relatively simple I wouldn't say like ultra simple reference points, but like relatively simple reference points, especially for the early game. But it's just very confusing. You know what a Draven wants to do. He wants to run you down the long lane. He wants to punish like scaling champions and play aggressive. But doing that is tricky.
Yeah, the burden of execution.
I also want to talk in this section, Curtis, about like champions that kind of trick you in a way. So two champions that trick you from the AD perspective would be Twitch and Kog'Maw, right? These two champions. So Kog'Maw is actually a lane bully. And a lot of people think he's just like a hyperscaler. You probably think Kog'Maw's a hyperscaler champion.
Yes, I do.
Kog'Maw spikes
Lulu Cog.
Yeah, that's what the kind of Lulu and Melio kind of break the mold a little bit. You obviously can scale with any AD carry, but he's a very strong laner when you take extended trades around W and running people down the lane with E on the ground and then chase with W. You actually need to play your laning phase quite well on Kog'Maw. You can't just sit there and 0-0 and play the game because how the fuck are you going to win in the mid game as Kog'Maw? Like what do you bring to the table? You know. And then with Twitch, people like we have a really good Twitch guide in Bot Lane Academy. I'm a bit biased because I didn't make it, but the way we teach Twitch makes it incredibly intuitive. Where you actually play like an assassin, which is again, it's not archetypal, but it is intuitive once you do it. But then the champion itself, when you look at it, you're like, I have an AOE ulti. I want to group and try and hit multiple people with my ult.
Yeah, it's exactly as a Diana thing.
But you actually don't. You want to hunt the squishies. Yeah. So it's the opposite. You care less about like grouping with your team and having good threat assessment of the enemy. You need to actually think like an assassin and isolate the squishy enemies who you can flank and stuff. It's very
interesting.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely circle back to that. There are a lot of kits out there in League that trick you.
Yeah.
So a few other quick ones here. You know, some champs are just less suited to the Chaos of Solo queue, right? Like, you know, certain champs just thrive in those environments better because they maybe have a little bit more adaptability. They can, you know, basically alter their role and what they can do in that game based off what the game demands of them. Other champions, less so. I think that's definitely, you know, in the conversation there. And then the other one as well is certain champs scale with game understanding. So I've always likened champions that have a lot of utility. Again, let's say Bard for support, Pikes, Alistairs, or even a lot of mid laners like Ryze and Talias and Aziz and Galio's and TFs. These champions.
Thinking man
champions, exactly right. They scale with how cerebral you are and how what your game understanding is. So in order to feel the power of a lot of these champions, there's a lot of like background information that you need to have and knowledge to actually feel impactful on a lot of these champions. That's why like I don't recommend a lot of these champions below a certain elo bracket threshold, because you just simply don't have the game knowledge to be able to function the kit. And it's like, this is a quick aside, but really fascinating. Bard is a champion specifically that you'll see a lot of high-low players be able to play off-roll and have success with it, because it's kind of like this like Play-Doh thing. It's like I can just grab it and just like, basically leverage my game understanding to just basically, have my impact felt on the map.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas there's not many champs in the game in support, that really, really allow you to do that without getting severely punished. You know what I mean? So why is it that someone could like first time Bard in bot lane as a mid laner or something and just pop off?
Yeah.
Because it's just like this, it's like this mold. I can just shape around and express what I know about the game. So that's like the premise of this one. We're going to then move on now to kind of riff on this. We've covered a lot of maybe why certain champions are hard to learn. What are some specific examples of hard champions to learn in each and every role? So let's kick it off with mid lane here. So I've got 3 champions: Zed, Azir, and Ryze. Now tying into the let's say principles and things that we just covered before, these are champions that have very complex reference points. Okay. Understanding what they need to do to win the game is quite overwhelming. Do I split push? Do I group? When do I split? When do I group? How do I use the utility that my kit has? They're also mechanically demanding, right? They're champions that Ryze, skill shot oriented, no damage on your ultimate. Obviously, Azir, incredibly mechanically demanding, weaving in auto attacks. And Zed, you miss your shurikens, you're not going to do a lot of damage, right? So these are champions that kind of both fit into that category, that fourth quadrant of high complex reference point complexity, high execution barrier, and as a result, are just very difficult to pick up. Not to mention they scale with game understanding. They require a great understanding of your limits as well, because if you're not going in and dealing damage, you're just useless. And sometimes the kit is not overly intuitive either. So these would be really prime examples.
Talk about Azir, because I remember, I don't remember which episode where you spoke to me about Azir's reference points specifically in the mid game, and it was just shocking to me.
Yeah, so just quickly, and I do think a lot of the champs we're going to cover have this same thing, where Azir has this challenge, and Azir's challenge in every single solo queue game is, how do I bridge the gap to get to my 3 items, right? Because once Azir is on 3 items, a lot of the time, you're going to be able to win fights. You can team fight, you can skirmish, you can do whatever you want. So a lot of the time as Azir, you need to use the side lane and your dueling capacity and your tower passive to essentially allow yourself to get a lot of economy, stall out the game, drag out the game, create 1v2 scenarios, waste time in the side. You're also hyper mobile and can disengage really well with your R to basically buy enough time in the game to get to your 3 items whereby you can win team fights. So what I see with most Azirs is that they can minimize lane, they have an okay lane, whatever. They get to mid game and they start grouping either too early and the game just gets griefed because they just piss weak.
They can't play.
Or they actually essentially overside lane and they just play too passive and they never group even when they are strong. So it's just not an overly intuitive, champion to understand.
Yeah, and I think the tower passive is just mental to me. I just don't see any Azirs formulating their game plan around the tower.
Exactly right. And so moving on to top. So Chippy's actually helped us with this one. He said some hard champions to learn are Aurelia, Rumble, and Jax. Now, straight away off the bat, right, these are champions that are very, very punishing if you don't know your limits, right? They obviously require you to get in the thick of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played a lot of Rumble in my time, and Rumble is one of the most punishing champions to learn. If you're going in there and you don't know that you can actually win that fight, you are completely
Rumbles
screwed.
will go 0-10 very easily.
As
So
a jungler,
so can Aurelia.
I love farming these champions.
Yes, you do.
Well, actually, Rumble and Aurelia, I farm them. But yeah, Jax may be a little bit different. But yeah, these champions go 0-10.
Yeah, because again, I think they also have they're different in lane for different reasons. So Aurelia just has a lot of losing matchups, a lot of very difficult matchups where you need to know specifically how to play them. Very matchup dependent champion. So again, requires knowledge of limits, but also knowledge of other champs.
Yes.
Rumble, the way your kit is designed is like you need to win early. You need to be developing a lead and leveraging your early spikes and like grouping at neutrals. Top laners generally suck at grouping at those early neutrals as well.
Well, as well as I think the way you trade on Rumble is very mechanically demanding. A lot of hit management, a lot of like short trading.
It's a combination of
skill
like
shots.
I mean, aiming your character. Like it's important to know when to overheat and auto stuff. It's very weird, complex,
but also
unique champ.
as well, like Rumble's a champion that spikes much earlier than a lot of other champions. You spike on one item for the most part a lot of the time. So comparatively to a lot of other top laners, and you need to have your impact felt in that game. You need to actively know what you're doing with your strength. I would say Aurelia as well is a champion that has incredibly complex reference points. Aurelia is a champion that even in mid lane when people play it, they don't know. They can get a kill or two.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I do with this? Because you're not really a split pusher per se. You don't have the greatest team fighting. You're not the greatest duelist either. So you're like this fighter. And fighter champions by nature as well, especially the squishier ones, are very difficult to know how to, like, what do I actually do here?
Yasuo, Yone,
These sorts of champions. It's very difficult to know, especially when you're weaker. Right, and Aurelia is going to be weaker than a lot of other champions in certain scenarios. So these are champions that require a really, really deep understanding about the game.
I would posit that why Jax is on that list as well is because he has options in the game. Like Jax isn't a clear split pusher every game. He's not a clear team fighter every game. You have to pick your poison. He's kind of a bit of a blank canvas of a champion as well.
Well, it's actually a really good point, Charles. Something I probably should have mentioned in the mid lane champions is that I think a huge part of what makes a champion hard is that they have an abundance of options.
Yeah.
Champions like, again, I want to say Azir, when you are strong, you can do everything. Going back to, like, I could group, I can play side, I can engage, I can peel. Same with Jax. You could peel with your E. You can dive, create space, and peel. Like I think this is where Rek'Sai as well. There's so much you can do. And when and League is already such a complex game, when I don't know exactly what my job is, then it's kind of like analysis paralysis. What do I do? And it's difficult to know where to direct your attention.
That's why Alistar was in that quadrant of the graphic as well, is because Alistar, depending on the comp you're in versing, can do anything. You can dive, you can engage fights with flash combo, you can punt people away, you can play for melee Qs and just trample people over and over again. Yeah, the more you can do, the more you can fuck up. With
exactly
champions.
right. And then for support, we've got Pyke, Thresh, and Bard are just 3 examples of hard champions. With the common theme with all 3 of these, very, very skill expressive mechanically, right? Yep. Obviously, that you don't want to overcomplicate, or we don't need to overcomplicate that. But also skill expression, right? If you think about just in terms of the abundance of options, what can a Bard do or a Pyke and a Thresh do with their kit? They have very versatile kits that are kind of like, again, Play-Doh. I can move into a fight. I can actually do a lot of things. I could maybe look for an engage. I could hold my abilities and create space. I could sit in fog. I could actually sit behind the fight and peel back with a Thresh with Lantern. I could, there's so much you can do. So the skill expression of these champions is actually understanding, okay, well, what is the win condition? Right? Where do I need to direct my attention based off who's fed and who's weak, and then mold myself to the game?
Yeah.
Right?
Notice what we're talking about a lot here is mid-game stuff as well. I feel like Pyke is similar to maybe like a Fizz in the mid lane, where a Pyke can generally know how to hook the enemy and kill them in lane, but then you get to mid-game and you're this squishy Pyke. How do you conduct yourself?
Yep.
There's no clarity there.
No, exactly right. Especially when people start getting durability and they're more aware of where you are and you're behind in tempo. Like, what do you actually do? And so if we compare this, we'll come back to this a little bit later, but just easier champions, let's just use Sona as an example. It's very clear on Sona what exactly is my job, when I'm strong and weak, what my identity is as a champion. So even if it's not exactly easy for Sona to do a job in that particular game, just by the limited amount of options that the champion has, it's going to make the game just feel a lot more in your control. Jungle, Nathan, you put here Nidalee.
Yeah, the Holy
Diana?
Trinity. No, that's the Holy Trinity. I would say is Nidalee. Diana is one of those champs that's more of like a
trick
the trick one. Yeah. So the flat out just like hard execution,
Trinity.
half reference points is the Nidalee, Lee Sin, and Kindred. Nidalee and Lee Sin, because this is the thing. The harsh truth of these champions is you have to win fights to win games. And do you know? And think about jungle role and like junglers. and just Reddit and the community and everything, they want to view League as like a strategy game, and like they want to have like, you know, principles, all that sort of stuff. And there might be a Nidalee or Lee Sin player that is like making all the right decisions or whatever, but they're just bombing fights. And that is the reality. It's extremely harsh reality. Like, you know, and that's why a lot of these champions you will see have more success in the high elos because the burden of execution is so high. And they're also champions as well where they just analysis paralysis. They could do so much. They're so mobile. They can jump around. They can always fight. They can kill people. They can invade. They should be clear on their camps. They just get completely overwhelmed with the options. The learning journey is so confusing. And then the last thing, and the trend with these type of champs as well for jungle as well, is like they're not R reliant-ish, or their R's not very.
It's not clear how to use it and when to use it.
Yeah,
like
well,
if you
Nidalee and Lee Sin, so like Lee Sin's not reliant on his R. It helps. Nidalee doesn't have an R, and Kindred R is like a save teammate thing,
It's a
right?
bait, it's a trick.
It's a complete trick, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also,
They can't gank Nathan as well.
Yeah.
These champions struggle. They have no CC.
yeah,
They really struggle to kill laners. Isn't like most people's rudimentary understanding of the jungle role is to gank lanes.
that's right. Yeah, Lee Sin is the one that can, I guess, gank more so than Nidalee and Kindred. But yeah, they're actually not even that amazing gankers, exactly. So it's just really confusing.
Yeah, I think whenever I think of like, again, a Lee Sin or any of these champions, they approaching a fight, yeah, it's so unclear for a lot of these champions what your role is going to be in that particular fight, how you need to play that particular fight. Yeah. And it's going to change rapidly game to game. Like you were mentioning earlier on, Nathan, with Kindred, versus a low range comp, versus a high range comp, how you navigate, especially the fights in the mid game, is going to be completely different, right? So yeah, I think that, you know, I've said on this podcast many times, I hate Nidalee on my team for good reason, because not many people can play Nidalee effectively.
Yeah, Nidalee's the ultimate one. Skill shot reliant as well is another one and all that sort of stuff.
And then we've got some AD carries here, Charles. So what are some difficult AD carries here?
Nathan has yoinked the laptop back. Ezreal, I've already covered Ezreal, so I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Draven is difficult purely because of the mechanics. The reason I put Draven on this list is while he does have simple reference points in the laning phase, his mid game gets very confusing. You're an immobile champion with basically no peel and no utility. So the way you win games is you have to snowball, right?
Yep.
And you have to just like you play fights in a very aggressive way. But yeah, the game plan in the early game is pretty simple. And obviously catching axes is just going to be a pretty complex thing for everyone. I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory.
What about Aphelios? Would you consider Aphelios a hard champion to learn?
Yeah, 100%. I think Aphelios is probably not to the same degree as like an Ezreal, Draven, or Kalista. Those are the three I was thinking is like the hardest AD carries. But Aphelios is pretty up there. Yeah, I don't recommend anyone below Emerald pick up Aphelios.
Is it the execution or the reference points or both for Aphelios? I thought the execution is actually...
Yeah, the execution is easier than the reference points. The reference points has insane complexity because you change which guns you want based on the comps you verse.
Yeah.
You have to play you're playing multiple different champions in the one.
Because that's how it feels like when I verse good Aphelios is I don't like know what they want.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. Like I know what a Twitch wants.
Yeah.
I even know like what any hypercarry wants. I even know what a Draven wants. But I'm looking at Aphelios and I'm staring at his character and I'm like, what is he? Does he want me to come into him? Does he not? Do I play at range? Do I not? And like, if I don't know his abilities and what guns he's going to get, I don't know it well enough to determine how I need to mold my gameplay to deal with that. So I don't know if he's thinking like that. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm the exact same as you. Could have playing as Aphelios, but I'll just like win the game. Like, anyway, you know, like
it's pretty easy to kill.
I'll just like fumble around. Like maybe I'm doing the right thing, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, but like, I just win the game.
Yeah, I mean, Aphelios is super interesting. Like, he just has so many identities in one. Is that how I view him? And you have to constantly adapt. And yeah, he's just. But execution wise, he also doesn't really deal much damage with autos. You're actually more of a caster, which is a bit unintuitive as well. So super unintuitive champion for sure. And then Kalista, just because Kalista just doesn't win games. One I wanted to add on the end here is actually Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is a hard champion. This is my little nudge towards everyone. I don't see many people getting results with Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa's hard. Kai'Sa is archetypal, right? She's a hyper carry, but she also can kind of take some extended fights in lane. She's a hard limits champion. You need to know your limits to succeed on Kai'Sa. She's also not easy to execute because she has like very specific ways to trade that aren't necessarily simple to pull off. Like you need to get your W off, but there's minions in the way. You need to get Qs off, but there's minions in the way to stop you isolating. Your ulti can be used in a myriad of different ways. Like the champion is like a Lee Sin in a lot of ways, a Kai'Sa is. Like, again, we see a lot of Kaisers who are very comfortable, got thousands of repetitions in, and we can see them execute quite well. But the average Kai'Sa in like Gold and Platinum, there's not much to latch onto there.
It's a champ that in my mind scales with game understanding, right? If you don't know, is my job here to dive or peel, or do I need to be adaptable to both, and who's fed and who's weak, and you know what I mean? Do I have that on that person or do I not? It fundamentally changes your mindset on the champion and how you play. Like the good Kaisers know exactly this game, my job is to do this.
Yep.
And they will execute it flawlessly. But yeah, you look at like in goal reviews and things like that, the Kai'Sa are just useless. They don't know when to dive, how to dive. They don't understand multi-threat.
Compare that to like a Sivir. Sivir just does the same thing every game.
Exactly right. Okay, so now let's just quickly rapid fire some easier champions to learn. Right, the opposite of this, mid lane, Veigar. I've got Veigar, Echo, Mal's. Clear as day reference points, when they're strong, when they're weak, how they deal damage is relatively intuitive. Even though there's some skill expression with some skill shots and Echo, got to get in the weeds. The difference here is that they're more forgiving. Echo can literally just dive out with the R, right? Disengage. Veigar as well. You can miss skill shots, but you've got a point and click R, and you've got your baby cage. You just pivot in the middle of the fight. And then Mal's as well. You can literally still deal damage without even using your R. Just press E and W and just see you later. There's going to be some shredding going on there. So these are champions that, again, clear reference points. It's clear when they need to do how to do damage. They're archetypal.
Yep.
Very intuitive. I wanted to kind of gang people with one. Like, I want to talk a little bit about Kassadin. It's a champion that does require understanding your limits. You do need to know your limits. And so it's not easy comparatively to a Mal's or an Echo or whatever. But the thing I like about Kassadin is that it has extremely clear reference points.
Yeah.
Right? You know exactly what you kind of need to do and what your identity is. It's very clear. And I think that there's a lot of people that tend to get results with Kassadin for that reason, because it's clear what you need to do. And so I put a premium on champions that have clear reference points. And so if you like assassins and you like kind of going down that rabbit hole, I'm okay with that, because I think what you learn with that, even it will take some time to get to know your limits, how much, when you can go in with R, when you can't. It's something that is relatively intuitive.
There's a playbook for Kassadin.
There's a playbook, exactly right.
Like
and so for top lane, Chippy's had mentioned Garen, Mundo, and Kayle. So Garen, Mundo, as we can see, pretty straightforward, right? Clear identities, tank and a bruiser, ease of execution, very easy to deal damage or soak damage. Kayle's an interesting one. He was saying...
Chippy said said there's the easiest range champ to learn, and the big
does have clear reference points.
It does have clear reference points. Doesn't need the burden of winning lane early. Insane scaling.
Yeah.
Scaling, that's like Mundo as well. Like scaling champs... Because you don't have that burden of winning early, they're always going to be leaning a little bit more to the easier side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting because a Kayle has high skill expression in a way, because you can do a lot in the early game with Kayle. It's like a sleeper, right?
That's the difference.
That's
the level 1 lethal tempo Kayle can kill you.
Yes, level 1 and pre-6 Kayle. But in general, you don't need to leverage that for the most part, especially when you're learning the champion, getting the basics down pat, to have results with a champion like Kayle.
I'll also say that Chippy, just reading Chippy's psychology, he's probably put it on the list because they would expect to see a ranged top laner. Yeah. And generally speaking, ranged top laners
they're just hard.
Right.
Exactly right.
But as you said, Curtis, leaning towards extremely clear reference points.
Yep, when you're strong, when you're weak, what you're trying to achieve, how you're trying to get there. Like it's over. It's not,
and the kit's quite intuitive as well. Like, do you ever? There is obviously a skill cap to like Kayle R, and Chippy's I know talks a lot about that in the guide and the Top Lane Academy. But it's you're the most hyper carry person. R-ing yourself is a lot more intuitive than like Kindred R in a way. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm really strong. Like R-ing your teammates is actually less.
And even if you're not getting max value out of your KO R,
yeah, it's still fine.
That's probably not going to be
like
the
that
end
person's low HP. But Kindred R is just
base.
completely complicated compared to that.
Makes sense.
Support, we've got Sona, Nami, and Leona.
Yep, it's just a whole trinity of getting results in Bot Lane Academy, honestly. Like pretty much everyone that gets results plays some of these champions. Leona's just the most archetypal kind of engaged support. Very low cooldowns, very strong laning phase, very durable, deals damage as well. Very intuitive champion. The abilities make sense how they kind of fit together. Like the champion's kit, all the abilities. This is something that I think we should talk about. The abilities work well in tandem with each other. I would liken it to something like an Echo. The W stuns them, the E gets you into the W, and then the Q helps you proc the passive faster. Holy shit, the Echo kit makes sense.
Makes sense.
Leona, it's like you E forward, you press your W for tankiness, you Q them to stun them, and then when we want to do a big fight, we drop R. It makes a lot of sense intuitively. And then Sona and Nami for the reasons we've already discussed.
Yep. Exactly right. And then for jungle,
Yeah, Mumu, Mundo, and Nocturne. Mundo is just fitting himself in here the last few, like year or so, because decided to make it a jungler. Could
Friend of the
clear
show,
well
Mundo.
for
Mundo
the show.
jungle.
Friend of the show.
Curtis has a lot to say about that one. Yeah, the scaling aspect. Mumu really... So the scaling and game plan aspect and reference points, just like we're saying as well, for all these champions, basically for Mundo. Mumu, same thing. Mumu and Nocturne, even though Nocturne there is definitely a skill cap, but there's a lot more win condition and art usage, but it's very easy to know. Okay, art, I didn't get a kill, probably a bad art, or I missed my Mumu. Okay, yeah, it's much easier to learn in a journey.
it makes more sense from a learning journey perspective. Totally, 100%. And then you've got, so just Mundo, is that the same? Where it's like, okay, even if I'm, is it clear
It's like a
what your
KO,
job
right?
is?
It's very unforgiving. Yeah, I mean, you
Pop a fully, mate.
You pop a fullies.
Right.
As you got angry, Curtis, you
Yeah.
pop some fullies
Makes
and
sense.
you get 3 items and you're unkillable.
Throw the briefcase.
And then you just throw your body at them and throw briefcases at people.
Auto attack people to death.
Yeah.
You don't
Garrus,
even really need to hit Qs.
I don't want to talk about
Mundo
Mundo anymore, Nathan.
No,
It's triggering
I
me.
agree with that.
Please
no,
move
no one
on.
should pick Mundo. I'm actually considering deleting that segment. So if anyone just watched a black screen for 2 minutes, do you know why? Again, can't see the screen. Don't know who I wrote, but I'm assuming I wrote Jinx, Sivir, and something else. So Jinx and Sivir. No, I didn't. Did I? Smolder.
Smolder,
Misfortune,
yes.
Jinx.
Smolder.
MF.
Yeah, so Smolder and MF are just very intuitive champions. The reason I put these as easy to pick up is because it's actually weird because they're specifically easy for the lower ranks, but if you're playing a lot of 80 carry, you kind of want to move away from these champs pretty quickly because they play more like other champs in the game. They're more mages, they're more like casters, so they're more intuitive to like someone coming into the game because the whole Veigar thing, I'm going to fire some spells. Smolder and MF, we fire spells. Reference points incredibly clear. They both want a short trade. Misfortune plays around ulti. We love ulti-based champions in League of Legends. Smolder scales like a demon, wins games.
So why didn't you put Sivir out of curiosity?
There's just a lot that are good for 80 carry, honestly.
Yeah.
I would Sivir and Jinx are also up there as the archetypal hyper carries, simple to play.
I feel like there's just so many simple reference point
There's
80
so many.
carries.
One I want to shout out is Xayah. So I love Xayah. So Xayah has one of the clearest reference points in the whole game, which is just to play front to back fights around your R cooldown. She's like the Amumu of 80 carry, but just has a bit more execution complexity and also has some really bad drafts. Xayah,
Okay.
like she's a bit more draft dependent, but if I would so much rather people play Xayah than Kai'Sa because the reference points are so much clearer.
Makes sense.
Yeah, 80 carry's got a lot of great ones, so good fun.
Lovely. All right. So now what we're going to do, there's a very uncomfortable question here that the community, we see all the time, right? Is aren't more complex champions just better? Like because the skill cap is higher and they can do more? Like why are you telling me to play XYZ like Veigar or MF or when I can be playing, Aphelios and Zed and Akali and Azir? Like these champions are just better, right? And I'm going to learn more playing them.
I think they're going to literally hurt their progress by not playing hard champions.
Well, this is so common. In fact, like I would say nearly every other day, there's someone joining them in Learn Academy who's in bronze and they're concerned when I say, look, you should probably start off, let's play again like a Veigar, let's start off with even like an Echo. And they said, but won't I just learn more if I were to get specialized in Akali or specialized in XYZ champion? I'm like, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So what we're going to do, this is a tough question to answer. It has many facets to it. So let's get into the weeds here. So Charlie, you famously said, the more you can do with a champion, the more you can fuck up. What does this mean?
Yeah, so I guess this is kind of like the inverse of having a playbook for a champion. If your champion lacks a playbook and instead has more of like an empty piece of parchment where every game is like a news story, then if you're like struggling that day to write, you're going to write a shit story. You know what I mean? Bogus analogy, but that's kind of what champions have. And like, it's like what Nathan was saying with Ezreal before. It's like, it's Ezreal. I can play my lane to poke or I can play my lane to all in. But how do I know when to do which?
Yeah, that's instantly what comes to mind when I think about Nidalee, Kindred, Lee Sin. You're starting the game from scratch. It's like a new story. I think it's a good analogy. You're starting from scratch, a blank piece of paper every single game.
Yeah.
So I would tackle this in a very simple way.
Yeah.
All right. It's very simple. Number one, our goal is, okay, you want to separate being good at a champion versus being good at League of Legends. Okay. Now, when you develop champion mastery, you have an expanded mental stack, so we can actually start understanding the game holistically. Okay. So when you're caught up in the minutiae of like, what does my champion do? How do I play my champion? How do I deal damage? Me. I don't have time or energy or mental stack capacity to think about, well, my top laner, my jungler, my AD carry, or just anything happening cerebrally around the map, at all. I just don't have the mental stack capacity. So the faster we can get you out of this realm of the champion and faster into the game specifics and talking about fundamentals and neutral objectives and all this stuff, the more sophisticated your game understanding is actually going to become, and the more you're going to be able to learn League of Legends, okay? And so what ends up happening is that for people, if you were to try to learn the game through the lens of something like an Azir or an Akali or any of these champions, you simply don't have the game understanding to actually make use of all of the what ifs of what this champion can do. So imagine it as like, you need to imagine, the way I kind of think about it is that like there are, let's say, 10 concepts that you need to know to execute to and actually have mastery over before you can actually unlock and execute upon these complex skill expressive elements of these kits. Right? To milk and actually understand or get value from playing Azir, you need to know how to side lane. You need to know how to sync pressure. You need to have complete awareness of neutrals. You know how to fix lane assignments. You need to know about tempo and TP usage and all these things, right? But if you don't have that, then you're never going to learn it until you've actually learnt these concepts through a more simple lens. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So the argument would then be, well, Curtis, can't I just learn those things through the lens of Azir? Why can't I just learn those things? But because it's so overwhelming, because the champion is so intensive, you will never have the mental stack capacity. Well, it'll take so long to even remotely get close.
Let's pretend someone had like a completely like pure discipline, no like negative thoughts entering their head, pure clarity, a perfect mentor to teach them. It's possible. It would just take a very long time. But most people don't have that. They don't have a support network. They don't have someone telling them how to play Azir. They don't have the reference points. So it's not only going to be a long journey, it's going to be a messy fucking journey, which is most people won't make it to the end. That's the tough pill to swallow, right? That's why you don't see many people succeeding on this champion, because they set out on the quest, they see Mount Doom in the distance, but they never make it past the fucking edge of the Shire because...
Just get one shot by an orc.
Yeah, exactly right.
One shot by an orc, yeah.
And you know where what I like to bring it back to is the Goldilocks zone of learning. When you're playing a complex champion too early on in your journey, the complexity is so high because League of Legends is already such a complex game without even getting into the champion specifics that it's like beyond your comprehension. So you're just going to mentally implode, right? What we want to do is, yes, you want to like keep your brain engaged and you want to play a champion that engages you, but you don't want to over engage your brain. Otherwise you literally will just check out. It's just information overload. And that's what I feel like happens to a lot of these people. It's like, you're not even, you can't even learn because you're so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Every single fight.
Yeah.
I also just think like you need to be in a place in your league journey when you're killing the Nexus. So you can then expand from there. So like, if I use Misfortune as an example, if we're starting off the Misfortune journey, we want to be playing rigidly to the reference points, fighting around your ulti, taking short trades. After you've played 100 games of MF, we can then start to break the rules. Maybe you can fight a fight with no ult, see what that feels like. Maybe you can take an extended fight in a certain matchup. Maybe you can take a different build in a certain matchup. But if you started doing that earlier in the journey, you won't feel it. It won't make sense because you need to have those skills first.
It's interesting because it is objectively true, right? Complex champions have more options, right? They have the capacity to teach you potentially more about the game. That is objectively true.
Some can Lee Sin can teach you kind of everything about the jungle role again, right? Like a lot of shit.
Like you could basically learn, yeah, exactly right. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is that the game is balanced around that fact.
Yes.
So because a Lee Sin can do so much, or an Azir can do so much, a lot of the other elements of the kit are weaker. You know what I mean? Like Azir will never stat check you because he can't. He can never be a strong stat stick and have the amount of like nuance to the kit.
Yeah, that would just be the best champ ever.
It would just be the best champ ever. This is why this is what makes the game balanced, right? This is why a champion like, let's say, a champion that has limited, let's say Vex, for example. Vex is always going to have pretty high damage and pretty high base stats because it just doesn't have an overly skill expressive kit. It doesn't have a super complex kit. But that's the way League of Legends works. The less options a champion has, so it's like Garen, it doesn't have the most complex kit, but it's always good because the stats
They're specialists.
Exactly.
Garen's kit is strong in one way, whereas Lee Sin's kit is medium in a lot of ways.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Exactly right. And it reminds me, I think we spoke about this before about the whole like Mario Kart metaphor, right? Where like when, the best Mario Kart, the best ones to pick are the ones that specialize in a specific thing.
Yeah.
Rather than like the mediocre in
100%.
everything.
I would play Toad and I would just fucking zip around.
Yeah, or it's like you have a car with like very bad like acceleration, but you go really fast. You always just like win those maps where it's like,
For the
like on
average,
straight.
we're talking in general for the average player, right? They're going to get more success. You shouldn't play a beginner in Mario Kart shouldn't play the character that is like 50, even in everything. They should
exactly right.
specialize in just one thing.
Correct.
They're going to get more results.
And it's just easier to play. That is
play.
easier to play. It's because you're entering the game in a headspace.
Exactly
of like,
right.
I
What do I do well?
know my strengths. I'm going to get away with that. And talking more about this narrative, people seriously think they're massively handicapping themselves by playing easy champs. So I think to the extent where they think like I can only max it like a 30% win rate on this champion.
It's really big. It's actually a huge narrative.
But
Yeah.
a champion play, let's say Veigar. I'm thinking about Veigar for some reason, right?
Yeah.
A Veigar play at like 100% capacity is like a challenger player.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that exists, that is possible, that instantly breaks that narrative.
I literally had a question. Someone literally said to that 2 days ago in the Military Academy said, there was an argument in general chat. And the consensus, one guy said, literally asked this question: can you climb above platinum with Malzahar?
Whoa.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
That is what we're talking about.
They think it's genuinely
They think it's impossible.
And
Crown won the World Finals in 2017 playing
I could
3 games with
literally
Mouse.
OTB Mouse blind pick blue side first pick to probably Grandmaster. Yeah. The high master at minimum.
and that's what. Yeah,
That
it's
explodes
very
people's
important
brains.
to.
so
They actually
understand
don't
that.
believe you.
But, yeah, they don't
as well.
believe.
They
Yeah,
don't
they
believe
believe
you.
you.
They think we're trying to sell them a little trick. We're like trying to literally
Selling snake
lie.
oil.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
selling. They think we're lying.
But you actually look at the stats. So if that was the case, then there would be champs in the game with a 20% win rate in Platinum Master Plus. But there is no champ in the entire history of League of Legends that I think has gone below a 46% win rate. We're talking about the Mel's of the world and stuff like that, right? So
Something like that.
So the fact that is
It's on the bingo card, by the way. Nathan making a bold statement.
that exists, the fact that exists
yeah, we're just like, okay.
means that you could technically climb to any rank. There's not. I don't even think there's a champion and challenger with a below 40.
no, I mean, I don't believe that you can climb to challenger on any champion. That is false, right?
Yes.
I think that there is a limit, right? But that limit is very high, right? Whether that is, high master, low grandmaster, it's somewhere in that ballpark where literally every viable champ for a role could be OTP'd to like roughly somewhere in the apex tiers.
I think you can get challenger on most ADs most of the time. Like, what AD carry could you?
Well, I
not
know
get
that for a
challenger?
fact you can't do that with mid lane.
Well, mid lane is just mid lane's a weird role because you have so many classes in the one role as well. But for AD carry, it's like pretty close. But
Right.
anyway,
But that's beside the point because these people they're thinking that it's that bad that you can't even get above gold or platinum,
Yeah, it's quite
right?
interesting,
It's
isn't it?
that extreme. So like I think
or that it will just massively impact.
it would
their
massively
journey.
impact your journey. They think
like
that
we talked at the beginning of the segment.
exactly right, and so
so it's a combo of making you worse at the game, but also just not winning games. People think
they think they're going to be a genuinely a bad player. If I
bad
were to
player.
play this for too long, if I were to play Veigar for too long, I'm going to be a bad player and I'm not going to deserve my rank. And this is going to cause massive problems when it's complete opposite, actually. Because the more archetypal your champion is and the less kind of like
That's right.
the less complex it is in a way, you're actually learning the game exactly the way it's meant to be played. And so the skills that you will learn are going to translate beautifully to a wide variety of other champions. You're going to be a more archetypal player.
So to throw a curveball here, this is not in the show notes, but Nunu. Nunu is a champion that you've spoken about quite a bit where you say you shouldn't play Nunu for too long, right?
Yeah, because he cheats the fundamentals.
So
of
what,
ganking.
talk about that, because I feel like that's like the counter to this argument. People say, I shouldn't play simple champs for too long, but why shouldn't you play Nunu for too long? What's the difference there?
It's a great question.
Throwing you
I
under
love
the
this.
bus.
No, I remember us talking. We had a massive segment talking about Nunu.
I think I was rolling a snowball or something.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
I
you
don't know.
rolled a
Nunu
snowball.
and Malzahar are kind of similar in a way, in a way, right?
Okay.
Well, because
Kind of.
there's, you're talking, Curtis, about most simple champions. You learn the game quite fundamentally, and you can have that freedom for the mental stack. But Nunu's winning games from like doing illegal ganks, like really bad
Right.
ganks, because the W snowball is just the most unique. It is probably the most unique ability in the
So
game.
I would liken Nunu jungle, to something like Quinn mid,
Oh, interesting.
right? Where it's like you can win with it. Like I've seen people literally like climbed in through gold and stuff with it, but they're not even playing mid lane. They're not
Yeah.
playing like basically none of what they're doing on this champion is applicable to any other champion.
But saying that with Nunu and Quinn, like there has been, you can learn Nunu and play the game fundamentally beautifully and high percentage.
She's not intuitive at all.
But that's not intuitive at all.
They're not going to do that.
With these champions, they're actually champions that they kind of invert the rules so much you actually do develop bad habits.
Yes.
Okay.
So
And it rewards you.
So the
game
equivalent for
rewards
bot lane
you.
would be something like Heimerdinger a bot, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm thinking something like that.
It'd be like
yeah.
Heimerdinger a bot.
I
Or
reckon
if-
even if if you played Veigar bot lane, I reckon you would also get pretty. It's
Yeah.
interesting because Veigar just doesn't have the same skill set. It's just
Yep.
these neutralizing champions
Yep.
that like force non-interactivity almost.
Yeah.
In bot lane.
So I guess then the question becomes then, is there a benefit at all to learning harder champions? And so again, there's a lot of things we talk about here. So it's not black and white, okay? We can't say a blanket statement here that is going to make everyone happy. It depends massively on the circumstance.
Nathan could try.
Nathan could have a crack. So okay. The average player thinks the harder the champ, the more learning they will get. And that is kind of true in certain scenarios. But before we even answer this question, we need to kind of give some context. So this is where things like gaming background and talent
So gaming background
come into
big
play
here.
here.
It's huge.
Okay, so not everyone is Donk and played CS, Counter-Strike from 4 years old and winning world champions at 17. We get people into programs that are playing League of Legends it's their first PC game. They've literally never played any online multiplayer PC game before. They've barely touched a keyboard and a mouse to play games with. And they are going to be an iron and bronze for quite a long time, right? Because they literally are not only struggling to understand League, they even struggle with mind muscle connection between like a mouse and keyboard and their body,
Yeah.
right? So these two realities coexist. So for the donks of the world, some of these best freak talents of the world, they could, or an ex-Dota player that has played all these other champions, played Meepo and all this stuff, they could play a Kali in bronze and get results.
I had someone in Bot Lane Academy who is it Immortal in Valorant? Is that the high rank?
I don't know.
I think it's called Immortal. And they're playing Ezreal in gold. And I was watching them play. I'm like, damn, yeah, keep going. And he did. He got like high plat, like very, very fast playing Ezreal. Pretty crazy. But most people, if they did that, would be Iron 4. A lot of people with a different gaming background, right? And those are the people that need the smolder. They need the training wheels of the smolder, the MF, things like that.
Yeah, and so the feedback loop is going to be very different. If you have a sophisticated gaming background, right?
Yeah.
What's going to happen, right, is that someone who has a sophisticated gaming background is going to be able to make sense of painful experiences. They're going to be able to well, I kind of understand how this kit works. It's a bit complex, but I'm losing here, but they have the ability to like dissect what's going wrong.
Yeah.
So for someone that hasn't really played maybe a MOBA before, or again, a lot of these types of games, they would look at a scenario and be completely dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Like, I've just lost this fight. I have absolutely literally zero idea as to what I could have done differently in this fight. Yeah. Someone else at the same point in their journey, who played the same amount of hours, could look at that and actually have a pretty good idea. It's like, fuck, I just wasted my W here and I didn't hit anyone with my E. And yeah, I may have lost the fight, but I could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
And those two people can coexist at the same elo bracket, but one's going to just skyrocket through and the other one's going to sit there for a very long time.
I want to take this as an opportunity to like just mention like shame here, because I feel like there's no shame in this. Like we're talking about logic here a lot and about like, oh, you should just like sit there and just like really just look back at your gaming background and just understand where you came from. You know, look at the old family history, get into the old started on Wii Sports, moved on to bloody Nintendogs or something. So that means I have to start on MF, but someone else played CS Source when they were 4 and now they can play Ezreal. it's not going to be logical like that. No. It's a good like exercise to think about, but one of the reasons why people have these fucking battles about champs like Malzahar is because of shame.
Yeah.
Like they think if I'm the player that's going to sit there and play Swain and Vhagar and stuff, I'm just a bad gamer and I want to be a good gamer. So I want to play Orianna and Victor. You know what I mean? But understanding it, that's why I'm trying to lighten the mood a bit here, because
totally.
like, I think this is something that you can fuck up, guys. Go and fuck up. Like, play Ezreal and fuck up and see what it feels like. But, like, listen to what's happening in the game and don't brute force it.
Because people do feel judged.
No one's going to have the perfect journey. Even if you watch all episodes of the podcast, take notes. No one's going to rock up and calculate the gaming background. It's not going to occur. Like, this is just a guidance to almost course correct.
We're trying to help people understand. Again, this is none of what we're saying is in a judgmental way. We're trying to help you understand why you might be struggling. And there's no shame in that.
No, exactly.
I totally agree. And anyone that is judging you, I mean, by the way, I don't think anyone really gets judged for this shit. I think it's all made up in their head.
Yeah,
for the most part. But if there is, then screw that person. The person is a lunatic.
I will say that there is this stigma around like getting beaten by easy champs, like specifically in bot lane, like losing to mages. People like, I mean, I've joked about it before, which I kind of regret to some extent, like saying that mages are like morally dubious, I think I said. But like, I realized I shouldn't have said that, because like people really love the game.
They latch on
playing
to
mages and like they feel attacked, and because people like there is a shame associated with people playing mages, but like that's the way you want to enjoy the game. That's the way you want to enjoy the game.
Right.
There's a huge section of the league community that just plays mage ADC bot lanes, and they embrace that. They love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to bring it back to reality here. So so I want to now use examples. I think talking about this without examples gets very confusing very quickly. So what we're going to do, what I'm going to do anyway, is that let's 3 champions, right? And these 3 champions are going to be at varying levels of, quote unquote difficulty. Okay. And do these champions teach you differing skills? Okay. So we're going to start at the very bottom, right from mid lane. We've got Malzahar. Okay. And I want people to think about refer back to some of the champions in earlier segments for their role.
Yep.
You've got the champion at the very bottom of the barrel, Malzahar. Very, very easy to execute. Too easy to execute borderline. Super clear reference points. I've called Malzahar the training wheels of mid lane for that reason. Okay. Now, are you going to be able to learn everything in the game through the lens of Malzahar? Probably not. It's probably not overly intuitive to do so. You can theoretically learn a lot about the game through Malzahar. Is it intuitive to do so? No, because what your brain is going to tell you is I see minion, I press E, I press W, and you're going to have this very kind of cookie cutter black and white view of the game. So it can be very good for learning the absolute foundations of the game, but to kind of learn specific things about wave management and slow building and, a lot of other more cerebral concepts, it's not going to be obvious, okay? So if we bump up that complexity a little bit more, let's say Victor, okay? So Victor is then, we need to be a little bit more intentional with our ways. We're a little bit harder to kill. It's a little bit harder to deal damage. Positioning becomes a little bit more important. Tempo becomes a little bit more in the conversation. So we're starting to get even more better. So
it's around cooldowns.
Yeah, playing around cooldowns. So it's a lot more now intuitive to learn these more advanced concepts. So can you learn more with Victor than Malzahar? I would say yes. You can, because you can side lane a lot better. So that unlocks that portion of the game as well, right? You can't side lane on Malzahar. So as a Victor, moving into the side lane, I can do a lot more with my kit. I can take Ghost and out-duel people. Those are things I literally cannot do with Malzahar.
Right.
So I've now unlocked a whole element of the game that was previously not possible for me as Malz. We go even another step further. Now let's go to an Azir, right? Let's use Azir. Now, with Azir, I can do even more in the side lane. I have engage now. I can literally engage fights with my R. I've got mobility, so I can push my limits to the next level, to the nth degree. I can be a pressure sponge. I've unlocked other elements of the macro game that I wouldn't have been able to actually do with Victor. And again, while also still having good fundamentals. So if I use this example of this hierarchy of difficulty, yes, it is actually objectively true that as you increase complexity with certain kits, I unlocked certain elements of the game. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's just a thought experiment for a second.
I like that.
That is actually based in reality. So that's true. There is a benefit to learning harder champions. Now, the question then becomes, at what point is that useful? At what point in your league journey is that an actual useful thing? When should I learn those skills? So this is what ties into. This is why in our academies we say, okay, we have a choosing champions channel. People come in, they say, I'm in bronze. This is my situation. This is what I like about the game. What champions would you recommend? And someone in Emerald will ask that question. Someone in Master Tier will ask that question. We answer that question differently as coaches based off what skills we think they need to learn at that point of their journey. I don't recommend Victor to a bronze player, but I love recommending Victor to platinum and emerald players. I love suggesting even more complex champions that get more sideline prio in Master Tier. So I, as a coach, intuitively, I would say consciously, am thinking, what skills do I want this person to learn and not learn? I don't want a bronze player to learn side laning capacity.
No.
Because then their games, they're just going to be A-ramming all the time. So I guess the question is, yes, there are benefits. It depends on when in your journey. Now, the last thing I just want to quickly say here is that do you have to learn these champions to learn those skills? No. You don't even have to learn those skills to get to a high level. Like you can literally never play a split pusher in your life as a mid laner. That's right. So you never have to learn a split pusher in your life as a mid laner to climb to challenger.
This is interesting because this is actually ties into the thing about the simple champions. What do people want, Curtis? They want to be a well-rounded player.
That's the terminology.
Yes.
I want to be how do I become a well-rounded player? They want to do like
the whole
bloody around the world in 80 days, doing every champ required, like tick off the syllabus, like tick, tick, tick. And then by the end of it, I'm the well-rounded player. But that is not most people's journey. League of Legends, as a game of champions, rewards specialists. If you're a specialist in League of Legends, you have like certain skills really maxed out and certain skills not so much, but that doesn't matter because your champion pool is specifically designed around those skills you do have. So I think being a well-rounded player is just like...
It's a myth.
It's a myth.
I'm curious what you think about yourself, Charles. You've played every role for 10, 12 years. Would you actually call yourself a well-rounded player?
That's super interesting.
Because I would still think Charles he still has massive flaws in his gameplay.
No, because like
still not well-rounded.
It's not like my learning journey through those 15 years has just been up and up and up and up and up. It just morphs based on what I'm playing at the time. You go back.
I would say Charlie is a well-rounded
I'm
player.
more well-rounded than probably anyone else.
I would say he's definitely a well-rounded player.
Not than anyone else in the
Why
world.
would you not say he's a
Okay, I guess
I've still got strengths and weaknesses. I'm still a human being, but I definitely...
When I look at Charlie's gameplay, I know I'm coming into that VOD and everything is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not looking at this going to be giant.
I
mean, Nathan, I first timed Rek'Sai for the first time in like 4 years, like yesterday. I'm like 15 and 2. I can play every single role.
Okay, I guess when I say well-rounded player, it's like this when people think that's like they're just perfect.
No,
everything
what I
lack
what I lack is depth, not width. You actually hit the nail on the head there. I do have width to my
exactly
play.
right.
I don't have depth.
That's right.
I'm 700 LP.
Yes.
I am not I'm like top of master. I'm not GM or Chow in any role. So yeah, width. That's a great way to say it. If you want width, you will lack depth.
And Charlie's a good example of the most well-rounded basically a player could ever be. Spent 2 years on every role for...
Yeah, except for mid, which I'm coming for mid soon.
Yeah, he's coming.
Maybe.
But yeah, so I would agree.
retire.
So there's this fascination with being well-rounded because again, I think what you hit this nail on the head earlier, Charlie, it is based in shame. I don't want to be called out by my friends or by other people in the community saying you're just an X player.
Yeah.
Right? You've just got your way to this rank doing X. They want to be a diamond player, not a diamond X player, a Nivea player or whatever. But like it's not a reasonable thing because we all will start off as being a diamond X player or an emerald bard or an emerald.
Yes, exactly.
Lots of famous pro players have had that exact journey.
Every player, that's how every player gets to that. There is no such
League
thing
of
as a
Legends is a game of champions.
It's a game. It's exactly right. It's a game of champions. Even the best players in the world get to their ranks as an X player. Like if we think of every pro player we've worked with, right in the past,
they're well known.
They were all well known.
The good ones.
The good ones were all well known with like one or two champions.
Yeah.
Like we think of all players. I'm thinking of like Fantix as like his TF and his Kassadin and stuff.
Chippy's
Camille Fiora. Exactly right. Or his Olaf. Or like there's always certain champions that you automatically assume that's them.
Cupcake
Bard or Pike, whatever. That's his identity. And then so the way I view it is that becoming a well-rounded player it comes later on.
Yep.
Right. It's like an add-on. It's like, all right, I've now mastered a champion. I'm really, really good at these few champions. Now that I have got that expanded mental stack, I can actually now start thinking about other shit. Right. It's just not that important.
Yeah, great.
So now we're moving on to the 3 stages of learning a champion. Number 1, toddler in the sandpit phase is what we've called it. So we're kind of using a bit of a playground metaphor here. So the toddler in the sandpit phase, we've named it this because, for your first 30 games of a champion, you do need to be very childlike, very open-minded. When we're really just screwing around, right? We're building this thing here. That doesn't work. Okay, cool. We want you to be very, student-like, childlike, free-flow.
Making lots of mistakes, tripping over.
Not judgmental.
Getting scratches, putting, there should be Band-Aids on you.
Eating
sand, yeah. Maybe pushing someone else's sandcastle over.
And so this is where really what you're trying to get across in that first 30 games is get a feel for the baseline reference points, the champ's identity. We really want to be just feeling out basic damages, ranges, spikes. When are we weak? When are we strong? And we're not really focusing on winning the game in your first 30 games of a champ. You're just going out there to feel the kit, have a bit of fun, and really simplify your setup. I don't want to see any build adaptations, fancy runes.
Oh, please don't talk about builds.
Don't even mention it. Just pick a setup that makes sense. Boom. Continue on.
I think you just need to play games with very little hesitation and very little over analyzing. Just play the games. A lot of people are in this phase. They spend too long. Just play the games quick as well. Get in and out of those games and just play the game.
The what you typically see with people in this stage of their learning journey is that they get so caught up in trying to win the game. Like the amount of people that say, "Look, Curtis, I'm 15 games deep on Echo and I've only got a 38% win rate. Should I just drop it?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to I want to do the Nathan Specialist, wake these people up. It's like, why are you even looking at that?
Yeah.
Stop. It's just not relevant. We're not even at that stage yet. So this is where I think the guides in the academies are really, really helpful for people now, especially with our new structure of the introductory, intermediate, and advanced sections, because we lay it all out here at the reference points. We just keep it very simple. We give you a beautiful structure to work with. Now, if you're not in our academies, you should be, but if you don't want to be, go on YouTube. Try to find some basic content that maybe outlines some of the basic reference points and direction of these champions and latch onto it and play around with it. So I want to ask you guys this question. What sort of mistakes do you see at this stage of your journey? What should we be seeing? What mistakes should people be seeing in their games?
Completely bombing fights. Just absolutely just going for the wrong person. Rushing abilities. A lot of rushing abilities.
A lot of rushing abilities.
Yep.
Missing abilities.
Missing abilities.
Wasting abilities.
I see one of two things. So definitely execution is going to be a big one, which is just incredibly normal. You're playing a new champion. Sometimes I see a lot of people bring reference points and play styles and strategies from their previous champion into the new champion, and they have to get rid of them. So for example, let's say you used to be a Misfortune player and you're moving to Sivir. I would see that Sivir take too many trades and just try and fight the enemy like the Misfortune wants to, and now they have to adapt to the play style of a new champion. So I see that quite a bit.
I would say, I really want to see you, again, kind of trying to not jump to too many conclusions. I would really want to see, maybe I was wrong here. Maybe I had the right idea. Like you kind of just want to assume that you know nothing and that you're just feeling your way through it. Like I feel like the worst thing you could possibly do at this stage of your journey, you feel like, I figured it out. I know what I got to do now. And you kind of crystallize that too rigidly. You don't want to fall into the trap of rigid thinking. It's okay to hypothesize things and play around with ideas, but you need to always keep in the back of your mind, I could have just been lucky here.
There are levels to this.
This. There's a lot that I don't know yet. So just, again, remain open-minded.
Or also just trying to do too much. I actually think this is the biggest one. I can't believe I didn't say that before. People just try and fucking use every spell at all times.
That's the Russian ability.
They rush. They overtrade in lane. They try and stomp the matchups. In every fight, they're trying to like kill everyone. They're just trying to do too many things instead of doing their job. Because
I have a theory about that, by the way. I think it's because... It's like the honeymoon phase, I guess, that people get into, is that this might be it. This might be the champion that can do everything. Because I've played against this champion, or the champion's really strong. It's like, I reckon this champ does that because I think it's the best champ in the game. Or,
I've lost to it before.
Yeah, I've lost to it before. I can do that. And they want to see if they can do it. Or they actually will think that they probably can get it.
So one of my biggest pieces of advice in this part of your journey as well is, like you said, slowing it down.
Yeah.
Like, don't come in. Like, what I would really want you to do, even if you're missing a shit ton of opportunities, feel what it's like to get to like your first major spike.
Yeah.
Like, without dying too much. Maybe you die once, but like, you know, if you can feel what that's like, that will give you a lot more direction. Like,
This is interesting because I feel like this is actually the opposite of how a lot of people approach learning champions. If we're going to contrast this with what I sometimes see, even in my solo queue games, is like people limit testing from game number one, where they pick up a champion and they're like, all right, I'm just going to go throw hands. But the problem is, guys, you don't have the level of mental stack or the level of execution or even the understanding of what the champion feels like to be able to limit test yet.
Yeah.
You can't limit test in game one. You have to first learn the rules and then stretch them out and know when to break them a little bit.
I call this low quality versus high quality limit tests.
Yes.
So what I say is that I try to put them on the spot and try to make them a little bit purposely uncomfortable. I say, do you think it's wise to try and heavy trade and solo kill this person as a Malzahar at level 3? Do you think that's aligned with your champion's identity? Do you think what your champion is really good at doing?
And they obviously have a very obvious answer. They know
and
that,
I say, well, yeah, I guess. And so, like, again, you theoretically,
But they'll say something like I was just seeing if I
was
could.
just limit testing,
It's like,
right?
mate, if you really just were focused, like you kind of know that you can't.
Yeah,
So you can limit test that and you can maybe min-max that, but let's just make sure we're limit testing within the means of what our champion's good and bad at doing.
That's right.
If you
It's
want
deeply inefficient limit testing.
it's a very inefficient limit test. We want to make sure we're getting the 20%. So if you want to limit test an all-in at level 6 post-lost chapter or level 7 post-lost chapter, go for that. That makes a little bit more sense. Or you want to limit test this 2v2, you've got your ultimate, your full HP, you feel like you can fight, go for it. That makes sense. If you're uncertain, do it. But notice how that makes a little bit, it's like use common sense, I say. Use some common sense.
It's like limit testing with a little bit of intention.
I like that. And I think that's actually really good. And
Yes.
I almost, if the limit testing is actually just you trying to execute on a reference point, I don't even know if that is limit testing, but you got to find out when you can do the reference points, I guess. So on Ashe, figure out when you can throw the arrow at them and fight.
Yes.
On MF, find out when you can ulti a wave to go back to base. Did that feel good? Did it feel bad?
It may not even be correct. And like I see this a lot with Ari players. We talk a lot about kind of shoving and moving, right? And like this Ari player might shove and move and just go for the most horrendous like roam.
Yeah.
But like I'm like, that's cool. I love what you're doing here. I can see that you're really trying to execute upon this idea of like shoving and moving. You're playing with your jungler. It wasn't the greatest play here because we can get into that. But like there's intention and it is aligned with what the
something to review.
Yeah, it's something to review, and it does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one we've got here, a common pitfall, is just pivoting quick. People, okay, so this one's a tricky one because you can pivot quick. Sometimes you just know, right, this champ is not for you because even when you're winning, it doesn't feel satisfying. That would be the X factor. Like I'm winning a few games here. I'm just not having a lot of fun. I really have a distaste for this champion.
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
It shouldn't feel like a chore. Exactly right.
That's when you know you should probably
pivot.
Pivot, yeah.
But I would say, you know, a large amount of the community are losing a few games pre-30 and they're pivoting because they think, oh, this champ mustn't be for me.
Yep.
Right? And that's a
they're
mistake.
pivoting because they can't win the game.
Exactly
with
right.
it. And that shouldn't be your mindset at all. If you have fun, like with the fights or the clearing camps or then good.
Have
keep
faith.
Goes
Have
30
faith
games.
that if
Yeah.
you keep getting
Take
in more
a long
reps,
time.
it's gonna take time, but it'll click.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the second stage is where now we can actually graduate to the playground. We're in the playground. We're out of the sandpit.
We're out of the sandpit.
Exactly right. So this is kind of typically games 30 to 60, right? We definitely know what our champ's identity is by now. We've actually felt tangibly the reference points and maybe have a little bit of muscle memory there. We still lack mental stack capacity. Our mental stack is still definitely overwhelmed, but we have a little bit of mind-muscle connection with the kit. I would say this is where execution really comes to the forefront, right? We're spending a lot of time dialing in our fighting, ability usage, paying more attention to the details, right? We don't really want to have a generic approach anymore. We now want to be being, okay, a little bit more nuance, whether that's, you know, champion specifics like matchup stuff, whether that's, you know, here you can be doing this in this scenario with your ability, but in this, you should be holding your ability here because of this. Comments?
Yeah, I mean, in the first 30 games of a champion, if someone has an execution problem, my response will simply be repetitions. You need to play more. There's no point getting into the details with how to use each spell and when. You just need to throw the spell 100 more times, and then we can have that conversation. Now they're at the point where they have thrown the spell 100 times. Now we can start to analyze how you use it in specific cases, start talking about principles with certain abilities, like different like use cases, that sort of thing for sure.
I was going to say here, this is where we can be a little bit more nuanced with our approach to builds, macro, and even laning. So, I would encourage now, I would go a little bit deeper in mid-game macro. I'm not just going to say default to front-to-back team fights or default to XYZ. I'm now going to be encouraging them to maybe think a little bit bigger picture about their role in that game, right? Depending on the rank, of course.
Yep.
So mid games really start to become a much bigger part of the reviews and our conversations. In the first 30 games, I actually I try to avoid mid game as much as possible. Like I might give them some very basic reference points and talk about shit, but it's mainly getting to the mid game in a clean manner.
Get strong.
Let's just tick the boxes of the first 15 minutes.
Yep.
Games in the second stage, we're really now starting to, how do we start winning in the mid game a little bit more? How do we have more impact in the mid game?
I like talking about like translation of leads, like the transition period between lane and mid game becomes very important. Like I even just like looking at the early mid game, just like what did you do once you killed the bot tower? Like what did the next 5 minutes look like? Because that tells a lot. If I see that you've killed the bot tower and instead of shoving and moving with your team or fighting on your ulti, you're just like taking a random skirmish with no ult. It's like, oh, interesting. Okay, there's something there. You're not translating your lead properly, and then we can start to hit some big 20%ers.
So what sort of mistakes do you guys typically see with players at this stage of their journey, would you say? Would it be...
So how they could be stuffing up this 36?
Yeah, so you can tell they're not like a master of the champion yet, right? They definitely don't have like a shit ton of champion mastery, but they're, let's say, game 40. So they've got some reps in. They've added some muscle memory. What do you typically see?
I would say that they've actually started to maybe generate some bad habits with maybe like a combo or
like misconceptions with the kit are starting to come out.
Yeah, and they're starting to. Yeah, I mean, this is the stage where the weaknesses of the champion are really starting to come out, which is, very similar to the first stage where we told people to not jump to conclusions. I think people should also still not be jumping to conclusions the 30, 60 minute mark, because I assume by now you know the reference points, but you still need to be very rigid on those reference points.
I think you hit the nail on the head here. This is where people lose their minds. I think this is the hardest part of the learning journey, even harder than the first 30, because now you've lost the novelty, right? Yeah. The honeymoon period is
completely
over,
gone.
right? You're now in the thick of it where you know that there probably is other things that you could be doing, but the low-hanging fruit is gone.
Yep.
Right. So we've cleared all the low-hanging fruit, and now you're just kind of left in this weird position where it's like, I know that I still am not that great at the champion, but I don't know where to direct my attention. I don't know what's actually going wrong in my games. And like, this is where I think you're so spot on here, Nathan, because this is where like a lot of weird like misconceptions about the kit really start to come to the forefront, weird narratives, weird beliefs, and also habits that have stemmed from other champions of coming in. Like, I think what happens in this period is that they've got comfort zone weird concepts that they just employ.
Yeah, they deploy them.
They deploy them in this period.
And if it's not fitting their comfort zone, this is the period where people just say this champion sucks. This champion is shit.
Yep.
That's it. That's what I hear.
Yep, spot on.
Yeah, it's the mental marsh where people enter it and they get confused. That's 100%.
Because they also start to expect to be winning games more.
Yeah, they think they got it.
They think they've got it, right?
Yeah. I played this game for 40 games. Come on.
Exactly right.
But also they have won games and they actually have executed on the reference points.
It's just not consistent whatsoever.
There's so inconsistent.
There's so many like little things missing.
They're
it's
also
like,
just not at the point where they can identify what makes a hard game for their champion, so they get confused.
Yeah, man, and also you're talking about where they should avoid spending their time. They should avoid spending time trying to win hard games. We're still not at that level yet. Just lose the hard games. Get comfortable losing the hard games.
Because that's where those narratives of the champion sucks comes from.
Exactly right. It's like you don't need to win those hard games. Focus your attention on the games that like are relatively simple for your champion, where you know exactly what your job is. Win those games comfortably. Because if you think about it, right, pre 30 games in the first stage, you're losing every game for the most part, bar maybe the ones that auto wins. Post 30, what our goal should be is we're going to win every game that is good for our champion now. That should be our goal. Every game that is really good for our champ, the comp looks great, we should be winning those games. The games that are like on the fence, like in the middle, we might win some of them, but still not going to be that consistent in those games. And the hard games we're never going to win, right? So that's where we're at.
But the issue there is that people, they come into this part of the journey and they want to keep doing more and learning new things. But this is like where improvement by subtraction is important. And you can easily get gaslit. Like, looking for missed opportunities and like, oh, I should be trading harder in this matchup, or I should be like pressuring harder on this mid wave, or I should be killing more people in this team fight. It's like, no, let's look at it through a different lens. What about like removing bad things? What about not getting chunked out here? What about not missing this recall? What about not hitting this tower in this moment? And that's less sexy to review. And I feel like that where people get stuck.
Spot on. And the only way through this is a sense of discipline.
Yeah.
And I hate to use that word in the context of like a hobby like League.
Fun.
It's gonna be
fun and
fun.
discipline doesn't sound good together.
But I think that like the way you want to view it is like there's this like, you know, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that you got to like trudge through a fucking marshland or something, swampland, and you just got to like keep your eyes on the prize. You just got to know in the back of your mind that if I can get through this period, I can get to game 60, game 70, game 80, like I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna have like all this.
It'll make sense.
It will make sense, exactly right. And I do want to come back to this idea. So now what we're going to do though is we're going to move on to the third stage, which now we're on the monkey bars, where all the big kids are. It's very scary, very intimidating. You can fall and injure yourself. And this is where you typically, with 60 plus games at this stage, at minimum. Now we're using averages here. It depends on the complexity of the champ.
It does, yes.
I spoke to Ito. He's a high Grandmaster EU EU player who plays Kiana OTP. And he says, well, it's actually this whole structure you've got is not correct for Kiana. Your introductory phase is more than 30 games. It could be 50, 60.
Yeah.
The getting to this third stage on Kiana could be game 120 plus.
Yep.
Right, for certain champions. So I'm just going to use ballpark figures, roughly on average 60 plus games, right?
Yeah, that was me for Graves, by the way. Graves, I didn't enter stage 2, like playing in the playground and like actually having a feel for the champion, actually somewhat being able to maybe win a game. After I think game 70.
Yeah.
I think I had a very clear game point.
So it can change. And it's also champ to champ and also person to person.
Yeah.
It's a rough ballpark figure, right? So this is where we're really about getting into the details. This is where we're figuring out how to kill the Nexus. We now have internalized the champion. We've got the champion mastery. We've got an expanded mental stack. Now it's like, okay, well now I kind of know how the champ works. How can I basically view myself as a tool, a vessel with this champion to win the game? And this is where it gets fun, because this is where we're actually now
playing League of Legends.
We're playing, and people hate it, by the way, when we say that. We got to change our terminology with that, because quick aside, people were not happy with our previous episodes where we say the game starts at master tier. And
Don't say we.
We
Me and Nathan
say
are
that.
being absolutely dragged into the burning car when you're saying that.
Well, Nathan just said
No,
it
I
there.
did. It's me and Curtis, yeah.
Right? So
I have the whole
in
playing
car,
League of Legends
Charles.
thing. Curtis is the master. This master with the game starts.
What we mean is that this is where you can actually start to express yourself through the lens of the champion rather than you just playing the champion. I think that's a better way to frame it, right? Okay. So is that what you mean, Nathan? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That's right. Correct. Playing the map.
Yeah.
Playing the map. Yeah, playing the map is a better way to say it as well, I think.
Yep. So this is where it gets fun though, right? We're less reactive and we're playing games of anticipation. We kind of know what to expect. We kind of know roughly the direction the game is going. We know what our role is in our composition, or at least can hypothesize what our role should be in a composition. We're starting to think about win conditions. This is where we can start to, actually start to impose some element of creativity with our champion as well. So what sort of mistakes would you see, and where should people be, I guess, directing their attention to this phase of the journey in your guys' perspective?
Yeah, from an AD perspective, this is probably where we start talking more about matchups, just generally. I think matchups can come into play rudimentary between 30 and 60 games, but we really have to be getting on top of our matchups, like 60 plus for most AD carry champions. Knowing it's one thing
minutia.
It's one thing to know your trading patterns and kind of how that works, but then you have to compare that with what your support wants to do, what their support wants to do, what their AD carry wants to do, and how that contrasts with how the jungles are pathing. As you would say, that's when you're playing League of Legends, but I guess you're putting the pieces together, right? I'm having more conversations around that. But if we're before that point in the journey, I will often say things early in the journey which might make me seem like a bad coach, where they'll die to a gank. I'll be like, yep, cool, putting that to the side. You died to a gank, but you had good intention with your trading here, and you were trying to play MF, so we're just going to forget about that gank. Now we're getting to the gank. You know what I mean? We're getting to the game. Yes, exactly right. Again, you keep trying to put that in my mouth.
Keep saying
What's going on here?
I'm going to keep saying it.
The game.
You're playing the game now.
Yeah.
It's like, what if you just said that? Just yap, you're just playing the game.
It's the game, as
also-
Nathan says.
That's why I keep saying it. I'm saying it for
Yeah,
years.
also just deeper into the mid game. Like the VODs will just go a bit longer.
Yeah.
Like we're just solving more problems as the game goes deeper. And I think, win con assessment, 100%.
Yeah, well, we're actually like, I just say this is where we're trying to make you a better player.
Yeah.
Rather than like make you a better player of the
Champion.
Yeah, it's
You
a really
know?
good point. I guess like an analogy would be you spent the first couple of, have 60 games or whatever, like building this vehicle, and now we can drive the vehicle and then we can start using it to become a better
Okay, so this is where there's actually one really important point we really need to bring to the forefront. Just because you have 60 plus games of a champion
I was going to say, you can make the vehicle a lot better. still.
doesn't mean, okay, so this is going to sound incredibly nuts and
Here we
so
go.
egotistical for us. And I'm again, Charles, you're in this car, so you're along for the ride regardless. Someone who is in one of our academies has followed the guide and has attended sessions along that journey and used VOD questions and involved in the champ threads. By the time they get to game 60, they are the equivalent of the average pedestrian on the street at game 150, 200,
200, yeah.
on the champion on average.
Yeah.
That's the uncomfortable conversation. So when we're making this, we've got to be very careful because we're
that's true.
thinking about the players we work with who digest our content and
Yep.
we're asking questions.
They get coaching every 2 weeks.
They get coaching every 2 or 3 weeks.
They
whatever it
were
is.
aware of what the reference points are in
Exactly
game number
right.
one.
If you don't have the
versus-
reference points, you
Yeah.
don't have guidance, you can't ask questions, you can literally be in a maze and take the wrong turn
Yeah.
immediately.
You
and
could
start-
be, you
You
could
can
be
be game
lit-
1,000, Curtis.
Yeah, we've literally had people that have played the champ for years and,
you-
still have no
and
idea
we're
about the
starting from
champ.
scratch.
Well, think about the Akshan player from that case study.
3,000
which I love
games or
mentioning
some
that.
shit?
Mental
Yeah.
amount of games.
That's a
just
perfect example.
Playing the champion completely incoherently.
Yeah. So it's just an incredibly uncomfortable thing to say, but like again, the average player who plays 60 games is not even going to be remotely close to this.
Yep.
So if you're playing 60 games with guidance and you know exactly what you got to do for those 60 games, then yes, you're going to be on average, let's say plus minus 200-ish.
Yeah, I want to
Games.
take this opportunity to kind of just yap a little bit more about our champion guides because
Yeah.
I think they're really solid. We've got a lot of them. I think in mid lane you've got like 40 something. I was doing a bit of an update recently, and the thing about the champion guides in We Teach League is they're less around telling you how to play the champion. They're more about teaching you how to learn the champion, and those things are very different. You'll see a lot of videos on YouTube telling you what runes to take, what things to build, and yes, we cover that stuff too. But those YouTube videos aren't telling you where do I direct my
They're not
attention.
teaching.
No, it's not about learning the champ. It's just how to play it. Anyone can like look at a game and say what happened, but like what's important? Where should you be directing your attention? How do you come to these conclusions?
how do they come to the conclusions?
What mindset do you need to be in? Like mindset is
Mindset's
such an important
huge.
thing
It's
when
how
playing
to
a champ.
think
How
about
to
the
think
champion.
as the champion.
Yeah, and what not to think about
Yes.
as well. So yeah, that's why we're able to kind of get people to this level
Yes,
so quickly is because
exactly.
the guides are completely different than any guides elsewhere.
they're even better now than they used to be, which is
constantly
scary.
constantly
evolving, which
Constantly
is so cool.
evolving.
So yeah, this is why as well. Like people, you can get to 60 games we can really already be starting to get better at League of Legends rather than the gem, which is really cool. So I think, the amount of options that you can work with at a player at this stage is kind of endless.
Yep.
Like sometimes if you're working with a champion that is very skill expressive, I might actually still be focusing on champ specifics. Actually, like we're not even,
that's what I
we're
think
still
as
not
well,
getting into
especially
killing the Nexus
fights.
yet because like your fighting still has so far to come or your laning has so far to come. Like sometimes with Victor players, they're at game 70 and I'm like, well, we're still like now, like, okay, yeah, you can win those games, but we need to go back to lane now and reinvent your lane because you were playing lane in a very simplified approach. So this is where I feel like it really depends on the champion that you're working with and the rank of the player that you're working with.
What I actually notice as well is oftentimes around the 80 to 100 game mark, results start to show. And then you verse better players. And then you have to go back to laning and fighting
Yeah.
anyway. That often happens. I think the 100 game mark, I see a lot of people making serious progress on their picks. And then, yeah, we've got to go back to basics again and repeat the cycle.
So-
we don't go back to the ultra basics, but we are still talking about champion stuff.
So like I want to like say for the average viewer here, if you're like playing, say you're in that stage where that you've got a lot of champion mastery with a champion, and you're at this stage, I would really want the player to start being more like using their expanded mental stack to start being more introspective on like what moments in the game do they feel uncomfortable. Like just talking hyper practical. Like I'm not in the academy. I'm trying to get better at the game. I feel like I've played a lot of my champion. Go to moments and just think and just remind yourself, like even in the post game, be like, okay, when did I feel really uncomfortable in this game?
Yeah.
When did the game start to feel really difficult?
I like feeling like, when did the train derail? The game felt good until this happened.
And now you should have enough understanding with your champion at this stage to be able to now navigate at least some sort of rudimentary learning.
Have answers. You would
have
actually
some sort of
be,
answers.
Yeah, you'll be able to come up with answers because you have a general idea how to win games. You've felt what winning games looks like in the previous 60 games, and you're thinking, why does this game not feel like that game? Or why does this moment not feel like that? And this is where actually problem solving the hard games.
I think pattern recognition is a really big thing as well. It's like, I'm winning these sorts of games all the time. What is happening in my games that I'm winning a lot versus what's happening in these games where I'm not winning as much? And I think like that is a huge thing as well.
And it might be as simple as certain champions. That I'm just versing these champions and then I can't win the game. And then you actually, okay, I need to fight differently with my champion. I need to start breaking some rules with my champion against these champions in terms of fighting. Because that's what the answer is a lot of the time, Curtis. When people say uncomfortable, it's just like, I'm just versing these champions. I can't, I have people say that like they've lost 0-7 to Belveth recently.
I would say definitely. And I would add on to this though, go over some major sequences through the micro macro lens. I feel like before 60 games, when you're trying to dissect things with the micro macro lens, the what's going wrong in those scenarios is less apparent, it's less obvious. But the more mastery you have, it's more obvious what's going wrong, right? It's like you're like, oh wait, I'm taking this fight, my team's not even anywhere near, or I have no ultimate, or I'm on a key power trough, whatever. Like you'll start to realize things. You know what I mean? Like you. It's like the more you know about your champion, the better quality questions you can ask yourself in a way.
I think there's a danger here as well, though. Like, don't you think that the average person is not playing to their champ's identity enough, and they're viewing their champion as too much of a vessel? I feel like there's a danger here of like, oh, I've graduated the champ mastery stuff. I'm playing League of Legends now. Fuck the reference points. Fuck my champ.
Interesting.
I'm just going to play the champ like it's a stick figure on the screen and the abilities are nothing. But you still need to play around. Like a Challenger Misfortune plays around the ulti. You know, a Challenger Ari is probably linking it with the jungler a lot and playing on their ulti.
Well, those that happens when people start overcomplicating the game or plateauing because they're doing everything that
they're stretching, they're clawing at answers, but the answers are often just back in the reference points. I still think reference points are still just
totally.
Like I still don't want people to think like you've graduated from the reference points.
Yeah, now you can just playing the map and playing the game.
They should be internalized at this point though.
They should be.
You shouldn't have to like actively think about like when we're all playing our best champions, you just got it's like a tacit understanding of like what I need to do and like when am I breaking the rules and when I'm not breaking the rules.
It's less a reference point, it's more about just acknowledging the champion's strengths and weaknesses and just knowing them.
Knowing them intuitively. To know them intuitively and then every decision you make throughout the game, you're consciously or subconsciously like keeping that in mind.
Yeah, it's not like when I'm playing Ashe, I'm thinking like, okay, I can't fight now because I don't have ult.
Yeah.
I'd be thinking like, okay, when's my ulti coming up so I can make a good fight?
Exactly
it's
right.
a different way of putting it.
And so I'm thinking of a champ I have a lot of mastery with. Let's say Vex. Like I know a big part of my champ's identity is playing off my R and making sure my R's are great and using multi-threat. But then there are going to be some scenarios where it's like, fuck, I don't have R, but I have my fear. I could maybe like do something here. But I'm actively aware in that moment that I am doing something that is like really, really scary and I get to be very careful and I can't overextend myself here because I know that I really don't want to be dying here without my ultimate or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
you understand the importance
I know the rule
of that.
I know exactly. I know the importance of me, being careful about this fight. It's like so in depth, so it's so ingrained at that point. So I do want to come back to some elements of these three stages of the learning journey, but I want to now bring it back to like top 3 pitfalls during a learning journey. And I want to really try to make this practical and hopefully people listening to this, things that people can avoid doing, right, when they're learning a champion. So the first one here is being wrong about the champion's identity.
Yeah.
You need to really make sure that you are getting sound advice about what your champion is designed to do.
What's it about?
What's it about? What is it? What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? What is it trying to achieve in a game? How is it trying to achieve it? And get clear on that. Like that should be step 1. Doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck how good your game knowledge is. Like if you're a diamond player or whatever, you need to know this stuff and you need to get it down pat. That is step 1 because if you get this wrong, you can piss away. We're talking many hundreds potentially of games going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Any other comments about this?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just easier. It's easy to do. It's easy to be wrong about a champ as entity. As we've kind of alluded to a couple of times this episode, champs trick you. Some champs look like they're about one thing. They're actually about another thing. You were doing the Aurora journey recently. Maybe you can talk on that.
Yeah. So something that I like to do when I'm learning champions, like I know a lot about Aurora, but like I never tangibly felt it. And I like to every now and then play champs that I feel like I've got gaps in my knowledge. So like just to make sure I'm competent coach in every champion, right? And I like to sometimes not watch a lot of content before I go into a champ because I want to be clean. I want to have a clean slate when I'm going in. I don't want to like get
it's like not reading reviews before watching the movie.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't want to be biased. I want to come in.
Nathan loves reviews.
What's my interpretation? Oh, like no, Nathan loves trailers.
Nathan does love trailers and clips and
reviews.
And
he's basically watched the movie before it comes out.
He refuses to watch a movie with less than 7 stars on IMDb.
No, so the Rotten Tomatoes rating of a 75, 80 and above.
But have I not shown you some banger like 5.5 stars recently?
Maybe
some good ones.
So that tick on the bingo card, talking about some movie reference or something. All right. So next, so Aurora, and I think I was wrong with my intuitive interpretation of Aurora's identity and what she wanted to achieve in a game and how she wanted to do that. And, after talking to some of the other Challenger Aurora players, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Getting AJ's take and Tim's take or whatever. It's like, okay, it all starts to make a bit more sense now. So that was something that even after like 30 games, I was probably wrong in many areas. And just getting that perspective really changed my outlook. So even me, someone who's very experienced with the game, can be wrong about a champ's identity.
But it is because people might be saying, well, you guys keep telling us to go watch the guide on the academy and then know from game one. But you're saying that what the reference was the champ identities, but you're saying you actually like to not do any of that.
But I'm just saying for me, that's my little
I still think
thing.
It is good to dabble just a little bit because then you know what it feels like.
No, you've got to be a very, very, very
player.
Sophisticated player to be able to do that without like
get away with it.
Yeah,
because you can course correct quickly.
I've played like every archetype, so I can quickly understand if I'm going wrong.
I will say as well that I can use Twitch for an example, right? When I made the Twitch guide, where do I go? Who do I look at to find Twitch's reference points? I can watch a Twitch streamer. There's a Twitch streamer. But they're going to be playing Switch. OTV is weird. OTVs play champs in weird ways. So what we try and do when we make these champion guys to swift into Curtis's defense here, we have to invent the reference points because the way that we teach for champions isn't necessarily what it looks like on the tin or maybe even how it looks like intuitively. Again, Twitch being an AoE team fighter, a lot of people play him like that. If I looked at Twitch VODs, I might have seen that and then that would have led me astray. But you kind of do want to, again, this is quite useless information, but you do have to kind of be open-minded when you approach a champion.
Yes, definitely.
Like you're saying, so you can come up with a way to learn.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I get this question a lot with very niche. We do because we don't have champs guides for like super like niche champions.
There's a couple are missing.
There's some missing, and people ask that question like, where do I go? Like, how do I figure this shit out? And I can help them and give them tips and stuff, but like what other resources do I have access to? And when I'm in that scenario, what I try to do is I try to look at a wide variety of players, not just one. I'll look at many. So I will go to this guy, all usually from different servers, and I'll just make what are trends, what are patterns, and even in my own games, I'm playing the champion, and I'll start to experiment. So this would be for the general player base, and for people who play more niche champions, this would literally be the exercise that I would do. Okay, and I've done this many, many times before because remember, I've had to do this for champs that didn't have guides before, right? So I would play it myself in tandem, watching an NA player, an EU player, and a Korean player, okay? So I'd be watching their videos, and then I'd be making observations. Oh, interesting, he's using abilities like that. Okay, he's doing that. And then I'm just testing. I'm just fucking around. I'm like, I'll do a bit of that, I'll do a bit of that, do a bit of that. And then I'm cross-referencing with other champions that I do know their reference points. Like, oh, is this a champ like this that is very R-dependent and everything revolves around the R? Is this a champ that really is a 2v2 oriented champion that revolves around fighting with a jungler? Is it a champion that loves team fighting around neutrals, or is it a champion that really wants to play for picks? Is it a champion that really likes side laning, or do they need to like kind of play for team fights or whatever? And because there's only a certain amount of options, and then you just start to combining with watching other people's gameplay and cross-referencing with other possible reference points from other champions, you can start to get a clear picture of like, it feels good when I do this. It doesn't feel good when I do this. My games feel really good when X, and it feels really shit when I'm playing with these sorts of champions. What do these champions have in common, but those champions don't have in common? And so like, I remember doing this. I'm like, that's why it feels really good when I'm playing Vex with these champs. Or when I play Cassio in those games, it feels super nice, but other games it feels unplayable. And you can it's a slow iterative process of like, basically building your framework of how you interpret the champion. Now, obviously that's easier said than done, and it's a very challenging experience, but if I was in that scenario, that's just practically what I would do. Okay, so moving on to spamming and losing confidence. So dropping LP on your main account. A lot of people do this where they kind of try to learn a champion on their main account.
Yeah, and this is what causes them to pivot a lot of the time, like you were saying, Nathan. They just don't want to ruin their account. So like, fuck it, I'll just stop playing the champ, go back to my main. Also, like the problem with spamming the one new champion is that you lose confidence in how to win the game overall. So what we generally recommend people do is you don't stop playing your old pool. We're not really cycling one champion out and a new one in. You can do that if you're very new to the game. If you're like unranked or iron, we do recommend playing one champ at a time. But if you have a champion pool already and you're like a gold player and you're like a gold, like, I don't know, like a gold Caitlyn player, and you want to start learning a new champion, let's say you want to pick up Ashe, keep playing Caitlyn. You should play Caitlyn 1/3 of the time and then play the new champion Ashe 2/3 of the time in a 2-to-1 ratio. And that way you won't lose your mastery of your main champion, which is very important. You won't lose confidence on how to kill the Nexus.
Because you'll be winning games.
And you'll still win some games. Exactly right, yeah. So I think that's just important.
And so what that would look like tangibly, usually we recommend 2-for-1 method for like in blocks. So it'd be like total 6 games of Ashe on a second account for every 1 block or 3 games of Caitlyn on your main.
In a row.
In a row, usually.
Yep.
Exactly right.
And in terms of accounts, how often should you play on a second account? Oh, sorry, for how long should you play on a second account?
Again, varies widely, right? It could you might click with the champ and it might be 20 games, boom, straight onto main.
I'd say what it feels like you're not going to ruin the game on your main account.
You can do your job. If you feel like you can do your job.
Yeah.
You're not going to win hard games, but you can win the easy games, and you can baseline do your job in the average games.
You'll have an idea if you're going to queue up and ruin a game.
Yeah.
Champion.
Yep. And it's usually ballpark 30-ish games. Hit or miss, depending on the complexity of the champion.
Yeah, you don't want to do it for too long.
No.
Yeah.
Because you get anxiety otherwise.
I reckon on some super simple 80 carry champions that are archetypal, you can go way fast from 30
Yeah, I was going to
games
say
as well.
15 games. 15 to 30.
Could be 15.
If
30's on the high end, I think.
Okay.
15
I was going to say in the middle, because I think the simple champs are like 15.
Yeah, I would say the simple champs like 15,
The
20.
middle ones are 30, and then the hard ones are like 60, 70, 80. No?
Yeah.
Think about it. Imagine you're learning Kiana for the first time.
It's a lot of League of Legends games.
It is. I don't know. I'm just no bullshit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it depends.
Think about you learning a new top lane, Nathan. I know that's a whole new role, but like...
But it depends on how much you care about, how much you care about the LP on your main.
Yeah, you can bomb the account.
You can
if you're
bomb it like
comfortable with
200
that.
LP. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like, it is just worth saying.
Yeah. It is a thing, though.
And the last one here is jumping to conclusions. Now, both jumping to conclusions when things are going poorly and jumping to conclusions when things are going well. So let's start when things are going poorly, right? You're in that learning journey. You've lost a bunch of games in a row. You're going to jump. What are some conclusions that people jump to when we're in the thick of it in the journey?
My champion's bad against this champion, so I insta-lose versus that champ. Not even going to try and problem solve at all. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
Another one, I can't make a single mistake. I make one mistake and the game's
That's
lost.
the Nathan Mott classic.
Yep. Yeah, just like my champion can only win if this occurs. Like you have these really too rigid checkboxes. Like I have to take all 5 tower plates to win the game or else I'm going to lose,
Yep.
Stuff like this.
And it can go the other way where you're starting to win quite a bit with the champion and you're jumping to conclusions. I've figured it out. I know exactly how to win with my champion. My champion is overpowered. And typically you see this through the honeymoon period where people get a few results with the champion. Things start feeling fun. And then all of a sudden, boom.
Because that will never last. Ever, ever, ever. Even if you're the best player in the world, you will
hit a wall.
You will start figuring out the champ's weaknesses, and you're going to lose some brutal games.
Because it gets really extreme because you go from high highs to low lows very quickly, and you can bomb your entire journey. So to counter this, you just got to remain open minded. right? You got to remain open-minded. You don't want to be jumping to too many conclusions. You want to just be, again, like that child in the sandpit, toddler in the sandpit, screwing around, eating some sand, play around, right? All right. So a question here, this next one is, what does it mean to have learned a champion? How does someone know that they've learned a champion? Nathan.
I'm going to go really high level.
Here we go.
Yeah. I would say I still haven't learned Rek'Sai.
Oh, God.
Okay, this is a mental statement here, okay? I've been challenged with
Strap
Rek'Sai.
in, everyone.
Because
what a mental thing to say.
Because, okay, obviously it looks ridiculous looking in, but it's a healthy mindset to have. Because people go around LARPing their champ mastery, their million champion mastery points, and they're saying it's the fundamentals of the problem and all that sort of stuff. It's like there's always a next level with my champion. That's got me very, very far, even when I sort of was able to pick it up. So I'm going to say I have never fully learned a champion in League of Legends.
So you feel as though the mindset of feeling like you're a permanent student of the game,
Absolutely.
a permanent student of your champion, is just the mindset you should just have. Like you never feel comfortable saying you've learnt a champion, because you think that mindset benefits you in the long run.
Yeah, I have a Kindred episode on my personal channel. I did a few years back. With Why Not, and he was talking about Kindred, and at the end of the episode, he was talking about how does he like improve the game and stuff like that. And he says he just sits there and watches fighting montage clips of champions
I love montages.
that he already knows how to play. He's been challenged because he's getting inspiration, constantly looking like how I could fight. But it's a very growth mindset. I feel like that if I say I've learned a champion, it's like a fixed mindset. Is that
Interesting?
That's what I feel like when I.
I mean, it's certainly extreme, but I mean,
It's very philosophical, like high level, right? I think to bring it more back to nuts and bolts, like I would say, like you've learned to champion when you know clearly you're at the end of that Dreyfus model of learning, right? Where you've basically the reference points, or you know the knowledge tangibly, logically. You've actually intuitively developed the muscle memory. And now you're not having to occupy your mental stack with the champion anymore.
Yeah, that's the official definition.
I would say that's the official definition.
How it manifests. Two ways it specifically manifests for me is, number one, is I feel confident in the game. I literally don't feel like upset when I'm behind, because I feel comfortable that I can go late game and win. It's an 80 carry, maybe an 80 carry thing, maybe it's just a champion thing in general, but like I know that I can recover, and I feel confident in my ability to win games. The other one is just literally having the ability to win hard games on your champion. That doesn't occur if you haven't learned that champion. You can't play a champion you don't know how to play and win a hard game. That's how it manifests on the rift.
True.
It's like a feeling of having control of the game, even when it's in a bad state.
Yeah, so if I get counterpicked, I get weak-sided, and I can still win that game, I must know how to play that champion. Over a large enough sample size, maybe. You can probably do it once or twice and get lucky, but you can kind of feel it too. I feel like a lot of things in League are feeling as well.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think that's so practical. And like I always just say, like League is a game where you need to be able to understand something logically and intuitively. I don't think you can honestly say you've learned a champ if you can't articulate why that champ is doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Also, one thing, you can unlearn champions. I have learned champions in the past that I can no longer play. So have I learned them? Yes, but does it matter? No. It's like,
right, it's in the past.
Who did I learn? I learned fucking Vayne in like season 4. Do I know how to play Vayne? Not really. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's kind of irrelevant. I have the knowledge. I could unlock it faster now because I'd be tapping back into that learning, but I'm still kind of back at square one.
And I think people tunnel vision way too much on mastery points. They think, look, I've got like X amount of mastery points. I played Vayne 3 years ago. I know how to play that champ. I could easily play it. Let's lock it in, right? And this is why people delude themselves into having like champion pools of like 8 champions, because they think they can, because they've played it over 10 years ago.
Case in point, the case study of Delirus, where he said that he could play, I think it was like something like 40 or 50 champs at like a challenger level.
Sorry, that's funny. He was Emerald as well.
Yeah.
Poor
people
soul.
can get into really nasty traps. And so this is the harsh truth though, Charlie. You are a big proponent of this, where people don't actually know how to play their champion, right? A lot of people are out there in the community saying like they know how to play their champion. They think they have champion mastery, but they don't. So where do you think people go wrong here? And what does that actually mean, do you think?
Very simply, they either don't play enough of it, or they play too many different things to ever get to the point of mastery. They're the two biggest ones, I would say. Like someone says they know how to play a champ, but they've played like 20, 30 games, or they tell me they know how to play a champ. You look at the OPGG and they just have like 6 mains. And it's like, well, shit, you probably don't know any of them. You know what I mean? So that's what it looks like.
Because I think it's like a feeling. Like I would just say tangibly, like there is a feeling that you get once you get to a certain amount of mastery that once you feel it, you can't go back. So you like, I'm sure you've all felt this on one of your mains,
okay,
where like you were describing in those games, even in the hard games, you know what you got to do. You can think cerebrally to like think about the win condition. You're not panicking because you kind of know exactly like what your job is and all this stuff, right? And that's a feeling. The moment you go to a champion that's not that champion, you know that you're missing so much. You're leaving so much on the table. You know what I mean? Because you felt before what it feels like to have champion mastery. Like you're like one with the champion. You know exactly how to play fights. You know, you can think, 10 steps in advance about the game. You can do all this stuff. But the moment you're not on that champion, it doesn't even have to be a logical thing. It's just like, I can feel I'm leaving a trillion things on the table here.
How long does that last? Because speaking from personal experience, so last year my Kai'Sa was my most played champion, like 250 games of Kai'Sa or something. I got to the point where I was so confident on Kai'Sa, started with no mastery, got to the point where I can, absolute confidence, understand all the hard matchups, everything. I haven't played Kai'Sa this year, really, like once or twice. And I feel like it's kind of all gone. The feeling is gone anyway.
The feeling's gone.
And I feel like, what were you going to say?
Well, what I'm saying is more bigger picture. Like but because you have felt champion mastery before.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? You know that you don't have it.
Yeah.
But if you've never developed champion mastery before,
it's like you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
That's why I think that
Sure.
exists. That's why people think they know.
Yeah, they think they understand this one champion because they understand no champion. They've never understood a champion.
Exactly right.
So it's a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but it's true.
It's a tough pill to swallow, and that's why I think it's very valuable for someone, anyone in any stage of their journey, to just confidently, if they can get to the point where they can confidently say 100% they developed champion mastery, they've gone deep on a champion, they've gone to the nth degree, they've really studied it, they've gone fucking double down, regardless of what happens past that point, whether or not they move on, they know what it feels like to have champion mastery. I think it's a very valuable asset.
It's also when the game gets fun, as you were saying earlier. Like in my whole league journey, I think part of the reason why I play so much stuff is because that whole feeling of when you master it and then you can play it at that level, it's like, holy moly, I'm playing, like, I'm going to say, I'm playing the game, yeah. My bad.
It keeps coming back to that.
My bad. Playing the game. Chuck it on the bingo.
Playing the game. Okay, so what do you do after we learn a champ, right? So let's say you have developed in champion mastery. You've got to this crazy degree. You've gone through the guides. You're playing with Nathan's Rek'Sai. What do we do? Do we cycle? Do we go deeper?
If you're enjoying the champion, you should play the champion.
Go deeper.
Go deeper.
Go deep.
Keep going. If you love it and you're getting results, don't self-sabotage and pivot. Like, it's time to like reap the rewards. You know, you've sown the seeds. Now it's time to pick the crops, harvest, and fucking eat. You know, let's go. So I think a lot of people pivot too early. And I think that like a lot of those juicy learnings, again, like I was saying, 80, 100, 120 games, you need to play this number of games if you want to go up in LP for the majority of time. So if you want to cycle and your goal is just to like play a lot of different champs, then feel free to cycle earlier, cycle 80 games, whatever. But if you can push yourself to go a bit further, you're not bored, I really recommend people do it.
Love it. Nathan?
Now, if you're burnt out from... I think burnout will happen even if you do love the champion.
Eventually. For sure.
Unless you're like a crazy psychopathic OTP, who has like 50, you see the people who have like 2,500 games of Nasus top or something, stuff like that.
I'm just thinking of that like the Heath Ledger Joker meme as he's loading into his 2000th Nasus game and away we go, going into the game.
Yeah. So if you get burnt out, that's a good stage to not go deep and double down. Like sometimes you just got to be honest with yourself. Like, I'm just burnt out of this. What do you do after you learn a champion?
We talk into the microphone, maybe. Do we?
Yeah.
Bingo
One.
card. Nathan, it's fine. If you don't have an answer, dude, it's fine.
Nathan, no, you know why he doesn't have an answer? Because
I go
he
deep.
still plays Rek'Sai.
Yeah, he still plays Rek'Sai.
I
He still
go
hasn't
deep.
learned Rek'Sai.
Yeah.
I still haven't learned
fair enough.
I'm still
still learning Rek'Sai.
I'm
He
still on the
hasn't
sand
learned
bit.
it.
I'm still on the sand bit.
Still
mate.
the same bit.
Yeah. I mean, Nathan tried to tell me that I hadn't learned a champ earlier this episode. Is that what you said? I've never, what did you say?
I said that you're not well-rounded.
Oh,
by
I'm
at
not
all.
well-rounded.
You're completely one-dimensional.
Yeah. So Nathan's sole purpose at this desk is to just say obscene things most of the time. And Any other things you want to say, by the way? Any PSAs?
Yeah, my last announcement.
Yeah.
Continue on, Gertis.
No other announcements. All right. Well, that's basically it. I think we've covered the majority of topics here today. Now, with that being said, someone has actually put together a BBC bingo card. So if you want to play some bingo with your BBC buddies, we will link it in the not in the description, in the top comment. We'll pin it as a top comment.
Can you pin an image?
No, we can pin. We're going to pin the school.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was actually posted on our free school community. Someone made it. I think it was Olivia. Shout out to Olivia. If it wasn't Olivia, then I'm sorry. So check it out. Funny. Let us. And they were also open to criticism if they want to replace it in them or even make the card bigger. There's a lot of bullshit we spew on this podcast, so feel free to chime in there. Very funny. Any final comments on today's episode?
Yeah, I just want to say, again, you should take everything we've said with a grain of salt. League of Legends is a video game that you should be enjoying. If you've just come off the surf and you want to play whatever champion you want to play, go ahead and do it. Just understand, I think, expectations are the most important thing. When we talk about reference point complexity and execution complexity and different champs through different stages and all this stuff, it's not to give you rules, it's to give you expectations and help you understand what will occur if you do this instead of that. That's all it is.
And it will get easier over time, right? The more champions the more times you do this, the easier it's going to get.
Learning champs is a skill.
Learning champs is a skill. A lot of people don't view it like that. They think it's going to be equally difficult every single champ. And is it going to be that hard every time? No, it's not.
Yeah.
Right? Once you've learned a handful of champions, you'll start to pick up on things. And this is why League, it kind of scales kind of exponentially over time, because what happens is that the moment you hit a threshold, once I've learned 25 champions, you then have a catalog of champions to refer back to. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this champ's kind of like that. And you've got something to refer to.
Yeah.
Oh, that champ really loves multi-threat. I remember doing that on that champ. I can do that again here.
Yeah, I do that super into. I mean, I've learned so many. I might have learned 100 champs, by the way. I would love to do it. Maybe I'll count it.
Yeah.
But I think I pick up champs so quickly.
At this point for you, it'd be so easy. You'd be like, this part of the kit's like that. This part of the kit's like that. Okay, yeah. I remember I had this mindset when I learned that champion. Let's try that.
Yep.
It would be so intuitive. And this is why, at some point in your League journey, when you start playing League for a very long time and you cycled through champs many, many times, it becomes... Again, not to say you're going to click with every champion, but you'll get down the basics of a champ very quickly.
You also understand why you don't like it faster as well.
You'll know what champs are for you and what champs are not for you. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of why I think there's this pro player threshold as well. I think that for pro players out there that have learned an X amount of champions, they just become godlike because they just know too much about the game.
Yeah.
And they can pick up champs instantaneously. Because if you've learned 100 champs...
Yeah, especially the duration of their career. If they're a long-time league player, you have to. You have so many metas.
You just become you break the game in a way. You can just learn too quickly.
I think one thing I'll sow the seed of, again, to use that analogy now, is we haven't really talked this episode about building a champion pool, but that is something we'll do at a later date. So stay tuned for that.
Lovely.
That wraps up another episode of the Broken by Concept podcast, the #1 solo queue educational and motivational podcast. We'll see you guys on our next episode.